The first thing a guy named Song Unlai saw when he opened his eyes was that he was in the forest. He looked around, not understanding how he got here and where he was. He was just recently at his university, and now he is in some forest. Having examined his pockets, he realized that he did not have a phone, or even a wallet. The first thing he thought was that he was probably in a dream, but everything here was too realistic to consider it a dream. Unlai began to walk forward with an uncertain step and call for someone to see if anyone could hear him, and after some time he realized that he was completely alone here. But suddenly he felt some rustling behind him and began to look around. Now he saw what this rustle was creating. It was some kind of shapeless mucus. Unlai took a closer look at what he now sees before his eyes. He has never seen anything like it. He peered at this creature for several seconds to understand what he now saw in front of him. A slime-like creature constantly flowed from one form to another. Unlai thought that it looked like it was living slime. He slowly approached her and looked even closer. It seemed to him that he was sleeping. What a strange thing. The guy decided to touch this creature, and I can't even imagine what will happen next. Having touched this mucus, it immediately began to actively move and change its shape. The guy got scared. Unlai already regretted that he had done this. His heart began to beat faster. He thought that something bad was about to happen, because he did this to make sure that it was all a dream. But suddenly the slime quickly changed its shape, and now it looked completely different. Unlai could not believe his eyes at what he saw. This creature resembled a human figure. It looked like a girl who closed her eyes and did not move. Her body became very seductive, and inside her stomach there was some kind of small sphere. Unlai thought that this could not be true. How could this creature turn into such a beautiful girl? It seemed to him that he had gone crazy, or it looked like some kind of prank. Whose conscience would allow him to do such a thing? But suddenly he stopped, and noticeably there. He was overcome by some thoughts, and curiosity got the better of the guy. He approached this small creature to find out whether this is really a girl, or this doll. She is like a real one, but why is she here? Naturally, he was very attracted to what he saw in front of him, and he wanted to touch her again. He approached the mucus and touched its body again. It seemed to him that it was real. But after touching, he noticed that she did not react at all. He decided that she did not feel anything and thought that he needed to carefully examine everything. Unlai went further and further in his experiments. He even managed to touch it in some strategically important places. He first turned away to see if anyone was looking at him, and then he smiled, thinking about how pleased he had just been, and thought that he would take her for himself. But when he looked at her again, he was surprised to see how the slime opened its eyes. He tensed up at that moment, and thought that he needed to slowly retreat. Suddenly the mucus crawled straight towards him. This creature under the float is very close to him. The guy doesn't know how to act. The slime looked at him with its eyes as if thinking about something. Unlai didn't understand what she wanted, but she has a very cute face. Suddenly the slime grabbed him by the neck with one of its tentacles and he felt a strong suffocation. He asked her to stop, but as it turned out, this slime can speak and she said that this man is a fool. She asked, "Doesn't he know that you can't go near the mucus?" She said that it seems that he is not a warrior or a hero, he is just a loser. The guy, meanwhile, did not understand what we were talking about, why the slime was talking to him, and why was it talking about some warriors. The slime said that if he is just ordinary trash, then let him just shut up and become her food. Now he can say goodbye to his life. Unlai could not breathe, but before that he touched this mucus and fantasized a lot about himself. Because of this, he had some difficulty in his pants, if anyone noticed this. She first looked closely at the little thing she had never seen and asked what it was. She said that it smelled sweet. Then she began to squeeze the guy's neck even more tightly, trying to kill him. She took out her tongue and said that now she would check what was hiding there. She tried to get what was under his clothes. The guy felt that he was about to lose consciousness. With the last of his strength, he prayed for at least someone to save him. And suddenly it happened. Someone threw a shuriken and pierced the slime right through, destroying its life core. She felt that her core was destroyed and she immediately began to die and turn into a simple puddle. Unlai felt that the force that was holding him weakened and he began to fall to the ground. Tyr felt that her body was dying and she could not do anything about it. The guy fell to the ground and the mucus turned into a simple puddle of blue liquid. Unlai felt great relief and felt that he could finally breathe. Having come to his senses a little, he stood up and began to cough because some of the mucus got into his throat. When he finally realized that he was alive and breathing freely, he began to look around to understand what had happened. Looking at the mucus, he realized that it looked like it was dead. Its core was destroyed by someone's blade. Unlai panicked. He didn't understand what was going on here. He didn't understand anything. But suddenly he saw a new local resident. A pretty elf in green clothes approached him and asked if he was okay. She looked very cute. She had white hair and green eyes. Unlai looked at her and immediately realized that there was an elf in front of him. But this cannot be true. The pretty lady came closer to him and looked at him in bewilderment, noticing how he was behaving. The girl said that it was good that she made it on time. It didn't look like he was seriously injured. Unlai still couldn't take his eyes off her ears. These sharp elven ears cannot be confused with anything. The girl began to approach him and said that no matter how stupid he was, "But you need to be careful. Hasn't he heard that many died because of this?" The girl came very close to him and said that fortunately she was here on time. The guy stood and looked at her in silence. Elf asked why he was silent. Did he really not want to tell her anything? The guy silently and slowly began to raise his hand and then did something she didn't expect. He grabbed the elf by the ears and began to pull. The elf was shocked by this behavior. Unlai looked at her with a stunned look. He could not tear her ears away and realized that they were real. This shape and thickness of the ears are indeed real. But how can this be true? The elf tried to tell him something, but she had never had someone so interested in their ears. And besides, apparently she even liked it. The guy shouted in his voice that they were real. The girl came to her senses and hit the guy with incredible force, asking him what the hell he was doing. This blow was quite powerful. Unlai felt that the pain he was feeling now was also real. He flew several meters away and then fell to the ground, hit his body several more times, and blood appeared on his face. When he finally fell and stopped, he simply groaned in pain. The elf asked what he was doing. She touched her ears and said why this disgusting fool touched her ears. She felt that her ears became hot, and suddenly she heard some noise behind her. The girl realized that it was mucus again, but they were so weak that she could deal with it one-on-one. But when she looked, she saw that everything was not as simple as it seemed to her. There were quite a lot of such creatures. I, too, didn't all turn into pretty girls with human forms. These creatures simply ate lost travelers who went too deep into the forest. The elf began to count them to understand how many she was dealing with. But there were too many of them, and she realized that she was surrounded. This and the damn connection are so much that you can't handle it on your own. They cause so many problems. Suddenly, she noticed how the guy she had just hit rose to his feet and began to laugh loudly. Unlai told her that he was really grateful to her for saving her. The elf didn't understand what he was talking about now. The guy replied that when he opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was this forest. He began to unbutton his outerwear. He first saw the slime, then the elf, and everyone was in danger. Now he understands that this is definitely another world. And with this body, he is going to become the savior of this world. The elf looked at him in bewilderment. What was he talking about in this situation? Transported to another world or past life. A general term for the phenomenon of passing to another world as a result of an accident or death. The main goal of world deities who usually require a hero to replenish human resources calling on a person. The beautiful deity turned to the bright girl. The girl did not understand where she is situated. This girl's name was Diana. The deity told her to remember that she would always be by her side. She endowed Diana with strength, dexterity and magic, making her a heroine. Those who truly become heroes will receive the blessing of the deity. They will find new acquaintances. Also, the study of magic is a very important element of development in such a world. These chosen people have to perform feats of destruction by destroying evil creatures who want to enslave everyone and wish everyone death. Unlai tried to understand what power the deity had endowed him with. Maybe he had magic or secret skills. Unlai was inspired and told the world to wait for him, because he would play an important role with his great power. The elf looked at him in bewilderment. She thought that he was some kind of sick person. Unlai turned to the elf and said that this mucus was not a problem for him, and let her move aside. Unlai began to wave his arms chaotically and said that when someone gets into another world, they first need to do something. Elphika continued to watch what he was doing, and even the slime did not attack at that moment. Unlai called up the status window trying to activate it. He thought he had some kind of system. Well, as it turned out, he had nothing, and nothing worked out for him. He stood like a fool and quarreled in front of the girls. He stood there for several seconds and nothing happened. He still hoped that something would work out for him. All he heard was the buzzing of a cicada sitting on a tree. She asked him what he was doing. She had never seen anything like this before. Unlai liked to read a lot of different manga in his past life, so they thought that he should now have a system. But wasn't there supposed to be a special ability or something? The elf said that she had no idea what he was talking about. Unlai grabbed the girl by the shoulders and said that this has always happened in comics. It was cool. The girl asked what kind of nonsense he was talking about and let him go. Unlai said that this kind of sucks. Where is the otherworldly creature that threw him into this place without any skills? He thought that it seemed like the end for him. And finally the slime attacked. Unlai realized that he would definitely die here. He grabbed his head and screamed for someone to save him. Well, suddenly the elf demonstrated her fighting skills and began to crush the slime. She dealt them powerful blows and said that the weakling was standing next to her, saying this about some kind of mucus. He looked pathetic. She told him to stay put, and she rushed into battle to save both herself and this strange man. She quickly took out several daggers and said that she knew their weak spot. She then began to throw these daggers directly at the slime cores. It was these cores that fed them with life force. When she finally destroyed these creatures, they simply turned into ordinary puddles. Unlai looked around and thought that she killed them all at once. She is very dangerous. The elf didn't even expect this from herself. Then she sighed heavily and was about to have a serious conversation. She looked at Unlai and told him to admit what he did. The guy asked her what she was talking about. He didn't understand her. The elf came closer to him and told him not to pretend, because he did something to make the slime become so crazy. Unlai said that she came very close to him. The girl asked what was wrong with him. She was just looking for something related to monsters in his body. Unlai tried to explain to her that he had nothing to do with monsters, but suddenly she knocked Unlai down. The elf fell right on top of him. This moment seemed to slow down, and they could not do anything. When the elf fell on the guy, Unlai asked her if she was okay. The girl said that this damn slime constantly pollutes everything. It always happens when you kill it. She sat directly on top of the guy, and was not at all indignant about this. She said that it would be good if the mucus simply evaporated. A beautiful view opened before the guy's eyes. He had never seen anything like it before. He had never interacted with girls so closely. And suddenly the elf felt something poking at her. Unlai shouted for her to stop. But she clearly couldn't be stopped. She wanted to find out what was wrong. The elf turned around and pressed the guy to the ground so that he wouldn't go anywhere. Then she took a closer look at that strange thing that was in his pants. But she had never seen anything like this. She had the same reaction as the mucus. Unlai didn't understand what was happening at all, and why she was behaving this way as if she had never seen a man. She noticed that this thing was moving under his clothes. Then she thought that, judging by the movement, it must be a trap created by demons. We need to cut off this nasty thing right now. Unlai, the guy, shouted that she was completely crazy. He shouted for her to stop immediately. She took out her knife and told him not to twitch. She had to cut it off before he got infected. The guy shouted that they were going to cut off a healthy part of his body. Does she really not think in her own head? The elf became interested in what kind of thing he was hiding. Unlai somehow named what he was hiding there. But as it turned out, this girl had never heard of such a thing. Unlai said that this is the thing without which a man is not a man. The elf asked what is a man. Unlai didn't understand what was happening at all now. It seemed to him that she was mocking him. He asked her if she was joking. She replied that she did not understand at all what he was talking about. Unlai asked her has she never seen or heard anything about who men are? The girl replied that she didn't know anything like that. Unlai didn't understand what the hell was going on. Then the elf said that she understood everything. It seems that he fell under the influence of this monster. This is a much more powerful monster than it seems, so it must cut it off. Unlai begged her to stop for a minute. He imagined this terrible event and begged her to stop. He understood that the elf was not listening to him, and was going to do what he wanted. If he doesn't do anything, then she will really cut it off. He needs to quickly think of something. He must find a solution. Well, as it turned out, the solution was right in front of his face, and he took advantage of this moment. Unlai hit her with his hand on a soft spot, and the elf experienced a strange feeling. She looked around and asked him what he was doing. It seemed she even liked it. Unlai realized that this maneuver stopped her, and he moved her clothes aside, seeing something that he had never seen live. He stuck out his tongue and thought that this is the price for saving his life. The elf was shocked. She didn't understand what he was doing at that moment, and why he even started doing this. But I couldn't control myself. It was getting very hot and she asked him to stop, but she had completely forgotten about what she was going to do. And finally, for the first time in her life, she felt such a feeling that she even dropped the knife from her hand. She forgot about everything in the world and the knife just fell next to her. Then some events also happened that I cannot leave here, but then I will tell you the name, and you can see for yourself. Unlai knew that this was his best strategy, which he came up with right before he almost had part of his body cut off. Unlai thought that this plan was like a trap. He made her go crazy and then slowly gets ready to leave. To be honest, he didn't even think that everything would go so smoothly. He tried to get rid of her before she woke up, but nothing worked. Suddenly he heard her say that she could not forgive him. The girl stood up and said this in an ominous voice. She said that she was just trying to get rid of the monster, and before that she had not even touched it. She said that it was terrible, and then she screamed that she was going to bite off this monster. Unlai shouted for her to calm down. She said that she misunderstood him, and a struggle began between them, and finally she tore off his clothes and saw the very monster she was trying to destroy. But it was something completely different from what she expected to see. She decided to try to study this thing and started poking it with her finger, and then grabbed it with her hand. Unlai thought that she must be mocking him. Why is she torturing him? And then he decided that there was only one option to escape from this situation, and he again began to do what had already stopped her once. But still she liked it, and decided that in this case she would also try something. She used her lips and Unlai immediately exploded. This was unexpected for him, and the elf also did not expect this. Unlai could not resist her because she was too strong. He could only hope that she would leave him alone. Well, as it turned out, the elf quickly found a use for this thing and decided to try something else. Unlai understood that this would not end well, and what happened, in a sense, caused him some sympathy. Unlai asked the elf for forgiveness and asked her what she was up to. The elf said that this thing clearly needs to be put where she put it. Although she did it unconsciously, it seemed to her that it would be right. Unlai shouted that in order to do this, there must be at least some feelings between them, but the girl could not be stopped. Unlai planned to save himself for someone he would truly love, and he asked forgiveness from all that is holy. But as it turned out, he was taken away for the first time by an unfamiliar elf whom he had only met today. Unlai understood that this was great irresponsibility, and he should never have done this. Unlai reflected that he did not feel any emotions or feelings for her, she just attacked him like an animal. He hoped that this would end soon, but suddenly the elf asked why he was so tense and kissed him. It was his first kiss, and then some other things happened and the girl finally calmed down. Unlai just lay on the floor and thought that he had gone into a world very different from the one he had always strived for. He was now irresponsibly left alone with the elf, and yet he had just met her. Is this really the end of his story? Finally she let go of him and stood up, straightening her clothes. Unlai still hasn't recovered from the shock that just happened to him. He said that usually after this they would get married, and they would probably have children. The girl looked at him with great surprise and asked why he thinks so. The guy tried to explain something to her. He himself knew only some basic things and all that. She asked him what would happen next, and why she had a strange feeling inside. Unlai was very angry because she did not understand him at all and behaved like a child. This is how this guy's story began, but he didn't even suspect what adventures awaited him next. He tried to explain some things to the elf. He told her what it means in his world when two people hug. Then the elf learned a few new words and said what she wanted to do right now. Unlai said that they would not do this. Now they will start with traveling together. But let him not tell anyone about it with such an expression on his face. But the girl said that she was pleased. Unlai replied that it's not that it's good, and in fact, she did something very bad. Doesn't she really believe in relationships between men and women? After all, only about an hour passed after they met. The girl asked what is the relationship between a man and a woman. She still didn't know what a man was. This word was completely unknown to her, and then she got tired of it all, and she told him to stop saying such things to such a noble elf like her. Unlai said that in fact this is a disaster, and what kind of reaction is this from her after everything that happened to them? But after talking with her a little, Unlai realized something, because she is the complete opposite of what he knows about elves. In stories about other worlds, elves were always quite conservative. Unlai said that usually after a relationship between a man and a woman, a child appears, and she could also have a child. The elf looked at him as if he had said some complete nonsense. Unlai said that this is all true, and now he doesn't know what to do next. He said that as far as he knows, this is not always the case, but nevertheless, she is now taking better care of her body. The girl laughed loudly as if she had heard something absurd. She laughed because she could have a child. It was also very strange for her. The girl said that I, her interlocutor, was very stupid, because children are brought by dragons. Unlai asked her if her knowledge is at the level of a child. How can she believe in such a thing? The girl stopped laughing, said that she had not laughed so much for a long time. She said that it was the right decision to escape from this boring town. So she met someone like him. And finally she realized that she didn't know who he was at all, and asked what his name was. Unlai said that his name was Song Unlai. She looked at him in surprise and asked, "Is this really his name?" Unlai said that she should apologize to his parents because they gave him this name, and now let her say her name. Elphicka introduced herself epically and said that her name is Vanilla Ice. She is the elven heroine of Justice who began her adventure to defeat the Demon King. Vanilla said with a smile that that was her name, and she had very ambitious goals. Unlai looked at her for several minutes because her name in translation sounds like vanilla ice cream. He asked her if that's really her name, and she told him to shut up because his name is Sunvi. Unlai said that his name was not that. Then the elf said that he should be her companion. Unlai thought that it looked like in one manga he read, is he going to have a harem or something like that? And then he wondered why he wasn't happy. If it was a fantasy story, shouldn't it be something more epic? In addition, this girl does not really inspire confidence in him. The girl meanwhile told him to rejoice because she will allow him to join the group that will defeat the Demon King. Unlai thought that she was very stupid, and perhaps he would be able to return to life in his world, and he could not allow his life to be ruined by some stupid woman. And then Unlai said in a tense voice that he was refusing her offer. He leaves and said that he is not interested in defeating the Demon King and knows little about the adventure. He is grateful to her for saving him. He said that if she never met again, he would definitely pay her. But the girl grabbed his hand. She told him to stop in a serious voice, and the guy understood that he wouldn't get rid of her so easily. He looked at her and asked what she wanted. The girl asked did he deceive her? After all, he says that he knows nothing about adventures, but now he is in the midst of adventures. Doesn't he contradict himself? Unlai said that he didn't want to go anywhere, and he didn't know what could happen to him if he teamed up with someone as stupid as her. She said that he was a fool for going into the forest without a weapon, and besides, he had just done something strange to her. Unlai said that it was all her fault, and it seemed to him that she liked it herself. And there is no point in continuing to argue about this. He will begin his own adventure. The elf fell silent for a while and didn't say anything, but simply held his hand and then told him to take responsibility. Unlai became very tense at that moment, when she told him this and was ready to hear anything. The girl said that because of him, her legs trembled very much, and it was difficult for her to walk. She used her elven beauty and said in a chalk voice that you want them to be together. Unlai understood that this was a trap. She cleverly uses the fact of taking responsibility. Right now Unlai is the one who took her the first time, and he cannot escape so easily. But it was an accident. Will his adventure really be ruined by such a turn of events? And from those elven lips? Unlai thought that he should stand his ground and not give up. Perhaps he would have fallen for it before, but now everything is different. After all, it is the elven sorceress who seduces men. He met her today and will not allow her to spoil his adventures. Then he resolutely decided to answer her, gathered all his strength and courage to give a worthy answer. And then he said in a loud and clear voice that he agreed, and so he joined the foolish elf's group, showing sympathy in her first adventure. Now he asked her where would they go now. The girl said that she was following him. Unlai replied that he was not following her. They looked at each other in bewilderment, because they did not understand how to start the journey correctly. The guy asked why he should go ahead. The girl replied that it was because he was her partner. Unlai said that she was really crazy. Why did he even agree to travel with her? He asked her if things shouldn't be different. She appeared at the beginning and should take him to the city, and there he will make a deal with the swordsman who will kill the Demon King. Isn't that what happens in Ice Sky? The elf said that she had no idea what he was talking about, She had only recently escaped from her boring green town, and did not know the way. Unlai asked, is she really talking about the Green City, so she knows the way there? He grabbed her by the shoulders and said that they could go there now, and the girl said that she wouldn't set foot there anymore. Unlai said that she must have gone crazy. Why did she run away at all? The girl replied that if she had not been in a hurry, now he would be in the stomach of mucus. Unlai said that they would just forget about it. The elf looked at Unlai and said that it was very strange, he had no pectoral muscles. It was very strange for her, because it doesn't look like a human chest at all, except that he has that thing in his pants. She also began to sniff him, and said that his smell was very pleasant, and she liked it. Unlai walked away from her and told her to calm down. But what was wrong with her? The elf said that if they don't know where to go, then they can stay here and try to do it again. Unlai shouted that he would not do anything like that until they were in the city. The girl attacked the guy again and screamed at him to repeat what he had already done. Unlai shouted at her to stop acting like a monkey who tried a banana for the first time. Unlai asked her to stop because he would die if she did it again. Suddenly, someone interrupted their struggle. A woman with red hair appeared next to them. She looked at these two who were behaving very strangely and asked what they were doing. This lady had a beautiful figure, but she had horns like a cow. She looked at this whole country and situation. Unlai told her that this is not what it seems, and the elf said the word I taught her to Unlai and said that this is exactly what they do. Unlai was very ashamed and he said that this was a misunderstanding. Apparently, the elf had never received a proper upbringing in her life. He looked at this woman and looked for salvation in her, and told her that this was crazy, something even a man had never seen before. Then the horned lady said that she also doesn't know what this man is talking about. What is a man? Unlai thought that she was also stupid, and why did he only come across such stupid people on his way? After some time, the horned lady clarified with them that they were both adventurers who decided to start their journey, and they needed a settlement where they could settle. But she still didn't understand what business they were doing here. The elf tried to explain in detail how this was happening, but Unlai said that they were lost, and they needed to stop somewhere. She wanted to tell me something else, she liked this topic, but the guy closed her mouth. He didn't understand what was happening to them. Already two whom he met here said that they did not know what a man was. In other words, is this really a coincidence? And at that moment a terrible thought settled in his head. Isn't it strange? He thought it was impossible, but still at least two people are already talking about it. She bit his hand and said that it was hard for her to breathe, and he was annoying her. She asked why he covered her mouth with his dirty hand. Does he know that warts can appear? The woman with red hair thought that right in front of her was a noble elf and a human. What a strange combination this was, and she thought that this opportunity should not be missed. She turned to them and said, would the two of them want to join the Adventurers Guild? Unlai understood that the guild is a paramilitary organization where everyone works for the benefit of their own interests. There, a task is given daily and distributed according to certain systems, in which the client is paid for a specific mission. The horned woman with a cow's tail said that their guild is quite large, and they are always short of staff. She is now on an expedition to confirm the death of the adventurers at the hands of the slime. In addition, if they register with the guild will provide them with temporary housing so that they can become independent. Well, of course, just then you get a small percentage of their earned money. In any case, she will be glad to meet them. Her name is Sia and she is a member of the Frontines Guild from the starting city. Unlai thought that this was exactly what he needed. The first event of any adventure should begin this way. He listened to her carefully, and then thought that somehow all this was strange. He turned to the horned woman and said that it seemed to him that the starting city was a little further away. Should they go right now? The lady with red hair said that this city is not far from here, and they can soon arrive there. She said that due to the magic that has been preserved since ancient times, the city will not appear until certain conditions are met. That is why this place was called the starting city for a long time, and after some time they reached the starting city of the Frontines Guild. Unlai was very surprised when he saw this city. The lady with red hair said that she wanted to continue the conversation in the guild. The elf and Unlai approached the gate. The guy thought that he would finally see civilization. He was fascinated by the grandeur of this city, and said that he really had to do a lot to get here. But this was only the beginning. Unlai thought about what adventures awaited him ahead. From this moment on, happy and sad days will begin, as well as many meetings. He will go through a lot, right? He will earn money, become famous, Become a hero who will defeat the Demon King. But at that moment the elf girl took his hand. She looked him in the eyes and said that they would do this together. Unlai didn't really want to go all this way with someone, he wanted to do everything himself, but he agreed with the girl. He didn't know why they were holding hands but said that they would enjoy this journey together. When they entered the city, the elf said that she had never seen so many people in one place. The girl with horns asked Vanilla if this was her first time in the city. The elf said that she was locked in the Green City for 1,000 years. Unlai looked with great surprise at what was happening in this city. Wherever he looked, there were only women, everyone had a good figure, and there were different races. He began to look around, trying to understand if there was at least one man here. He asked why there were only women here. The elf looked at him in bewilderment. She did not understand what this man saw so strange. The guy was completely bewildered. Where have all the men gone, and why are there only beauties here? He repeated in his head that this was impossible. Where did all these women come from if there was no man here? The horned woman said that she was glad to welcome them to the starting city of Frontines. She said that adventurers who are just starting their journey are trained here. Thanks to this, the city is full of life. Seekers of the highest ranks leave for other places. There are a lot of people in the guild, but there are always not enough workers. She looked at her new acquaintances and asked them, "This is ironic, isn't it?" Unlai hid behind the elf, and she asked him what was the matter, what was happening to him. She looked at him and thought that he probably really wanted to go to the toilet. The horned woman said that the toilet was in the back of the guild building, and you need to be patient a little. The elf asked if Unlai was okay, but he said that he was not okay. He asked, "Can he ask a very strange question again?" He looked into the eyes of the horned woman and asked her, "Is there really not a single man in this city?" The lady with red hair tried to understand what this guy was talking about, and said that he was talking about men in this city. She then replied that she didn't think anyone had that name. What the hell was he talking about? Unlai now realized that they didn't even seem to understand the fact that he was a man. That man was some name. The lady with the cow's tail said that seeing how interested he was in this, it would seem that someone named Man was very close to him. Unlai shouted that he didn't like men, and he was just an ordinary normal person. The elf asked who this man was. Unlai told her to forget about it. The lady with the horns said that he was saying some very strange things, and they had never heard anything like it. Unlai thought that the reactions of these girls speak about the state of this city. This city is a place where there are a lot of girls. When he thought that he would probably be caught and brought to the local queen, he had already imagined how the local queen would look at him and say that his face looked somehow normal. Unlai asked her what would happen to him now, and the queen said that in this city men are extremely valuable, and since he is now with them, now his main task is to reproduce. He imagined that he would have to do this with many women in this city, and they would not leave him alone. And when he becomes completely exhausted, he will no longer be of any use, then he will simply be thrown into the trash. Unlai shouted that he did not want to participate in this, and he would not give up. The guy shouted that he didn't want to die this way, and quickly began to run away in a direction unknown to himself. The horned woman said that he seemed to really want to go to the toilet. The elf said that must be so. Unlai quickly ran away. He thought that it was all a deception, and everything until now was a trap to lure him. He thought that it was all very strange. No one would take off the pants of a person you meet for the first time, and even more so to attack him like an animal, and do all those things that he did not intend to do. It seemed that he would simply be destroyed here, because he was the only man. Everyone else must have already been killed. He accelerated so fast that he did not notice someone in front of him and collided with a person, falling to the ground. He asked for forgiveness, and said that he did not look ahead, and then saw that in front of him was an incredibly tall woman in the armor of a knight. He was very surprised because he had never seen such tall women. She looked at him and turned to the guy and said that it's terribly hot today, and it's very annoying. Is it really on this day that he's looking for a fight? She said that it seems that today he decided to die a cruel death. She addressed him as if he were a woman. Unlai got scared and tried to justify himself, and he began to ask for forgiveness and say that he didn't do it on purpose. A huge hand reached out to him and wanted to grab him. Unlai almost died of fear at that moment. He was already ready to come to terms with his death because he did not expect that everything would happen exactly like this. Suddenly he was saved by the elf he met in the forest. She repelled the hand of that giantess. The tall woman looked at the elf in bewilderment. As it turned out, she had not seen elves for a long time. Unlai was now looking at this white-haired elf and hoped that she would save him from death. Unlai asked her has she been following him all this time? Alfika replied that she was following him to show him where the toilet was. Unlai said that it looks like she no longer needs to show her where the toilet is because he wet his pants out of fear. The tall woman said that what luck it was, such an opportunity to watch a noble elf walk with a person. She said that it made your blood boil. She said this in a very ominous voice. The elf looked at this woman and said that she was an ogre, and then she said that her guesses were correct, because she had a very ugly face, and she could not take off her helmet. Unlai shouted that she should not say such words. The elf said that the ogre scared her partner, and does she understand this? The word partner hit Unlai's ears hard. I also feel what he had when she saved him, and this is the woman who demanded a joint journey. He thought that this wasn't a competition for annoying misunderstandings. The ogre smiled and turned to the elf and the man, and then asked them what are their names. Unlai said that if the elf tells her real name, then later this woman will be able to find her. The elf, without thinking about the consequences, said that her name was Vanilla. Unlai shouted that she was a fool and should not have said her name. A huge woman in armor said in an ominous voice that she was an ogre. She also said that she would leave the human and Vanilla this time, but let them be grateful for surviving, and then she just left. The elf said that they would meet again and said goodbye to the ogre. Unlai asked her, did she really want to die? The elf said that it just seemed to her that they were having a rather sincere conversation. Unlai asked why she even thought that. The elf asked what all this meant then. Unlai said that it meant that the next time they met again, she would kill them. But still he thanked her for her help. He was really grateful that she saved him again. The elf asked what kind of help he was thanking him for. Unlai said that she had just saved him from the ogre. But the girl did not understand anything, she just thought that they were talking. Then she grabbed the guy by the hand and said that they should hurry up because Sia was already waiting for them. She smiled and said that it was time to go forward to meet adventures. Unlai thought that she was saving him in this world again and again, and here he knows absolutely nothing. He thought that even though this elf is very stupid, she is honest. I always tell the truth. He thought that she still could not deceive him. The elf also said that her companion would need new pants. Unlai had already forgotten that they were wet. He didn't know what to do, and the elf said that on the way here she saw a clothing store. Unlai said that then before they entered the guild they would go to the store. The elf said that Sia had said that the guild would close soon. Unlai's adventure had not yet begun, but difficulties had already fallen upon him. Meanwhile, in front of the guild gate, Sia was waiting for them and asking why they had been coming here for so long. Unlai changed his clothes and Sia said that before joining the guild they need to do something. Unlai and the elf asked what is she talking about. The red-haired woman replied that they needed to find out their abilities, and that's what they would do now. Unlai thought that this would be some kind of test. They had already entered the guild and were about to begin. Unlai was very nervous, but the horned woman said that there was no need to be nervous. All they needed to do was put their hand on this magic one there and say the right words. And she showed them how to do it. She concentrated, her breathing slowed down, and then, with a confident voice, she turned to this totem and told him to show her the status. The totem began to sparkle and radiate some kind of magical energy. The rings inside it began to rotate. Sia said that then this device reads their abilities and shows them. The elf said that she wants to try. Unlai stood still with his eyes closed. Sia asked him what was happening to him. The guy replied that he was fine. The elf started this test first, and the horned woman was very surprised that her mana was so high, much higher than the usual level. She asked what is she doing in the starting city. Sia said that it doesn't matter even if she is an elf, but these are very high indicators. The elf asked what she is good at. Sia said that she is simply incredible. She can be a magician from the very beginning. If we talk about magical ability, then she belongs to the half-dragon category. Sia sees this for the first time. Unlai wondered if the protagonist should have such a person as a companion. It was true, Vanilla had shown great abilities since they first met. And that super jump, how she hit all the slime with one blow. Unlai thought that he was the main character, so he could allow this to happen. But is she really also very good at magic? The elf said that she expected this. She's cool. Unlai thought that his role as a star was in jeopardy. Sia asked why she chose gangster as her specialty. She asked why she couldn't be a bandit. Sia said that she hadn't sent anyone prohibiting it. Unlai asked the horned woman what was wrong with her being a bandit. Sia said that there was nothing wrong with her. It's just that her total points associated with the bandit are 100, and with magic about 1000. The elf began to behave somehow strangely. Unlai asked her why she didn't want to choose a mage. He told her that if the difference is 10 times, then isn't the choice obvious? The horned woman said that she also wouldn't want it to be wasted. Maybe something is wrong? Unlai realized that the atmosphere was somehow very strange. The elf must have a very serious reason. He was sure of this, a circumstance so profound that it forced her to abandon the occupation for which she was very well suited, and choose another specialty. The elf said that she could not do this because she did not remember the spell. She said that she would have to read a lot of books, but she doesn't have a very good memory. And every time she casts a spell, she must be as concentrated as possible, and concentration is the basis of magic. In addition, you need to absorb mana through the skin in order to use magic. And this seems very strange. She grabbed the horned woman by the clothes and screamed that she didn't even know how difficult it was. Sia replied that she understood everything and let her go. Unlai thought that this girl was incredibly stupid. She had such talent, and she simply couldn't remember anything. Sia told Unlai to come next to the device and try to touch this thing. The guy thought that, strangely enough, all the attention was focused on Vanilla, but still he is the main character here. He stretched out his hand and thought that he must have been called into this world with all sorts of hidden skills. Now he has a chance to find out. I touched the sphere and thought that people from all over the world would know what Unlai was capable of. When he touched the artifact, a bright glow appeared. He thought that this was some kind of incredible reaction. Unlai felt great power only after touching the totem. He thought that nothing good had happened to him until now, but great changes were coming. Touching the device, he finally concentrated and told the device to show the status. He thought that, as he expected, he was a great warrior who came into this world, but Sia said that everything was within the normal range. Unlai was shocked by what he just heard. He thought that he was an incredibly powerful hero. He grabbed the horned woman and told her not to lie to him. She saw what happened, and let him tell him that his great skill or divinity should manifest itself. The horned woman asked for forgiveness, and said that his statistics were normal. Unlai shouted that she was lying, and he knew that she was hiding something. The elf thought that he was too cruel to her. Then she said that she was already bored with this registration, and she wanted to explore the surrounding area. But suddenly she noticed some pop-up windows on that device, and she asked what it was. There was still a special ability test going on, and his special skill is that he is a male, and he can engage in some activities with women, and he is the only one in this world. Unlai has just learned the terrible truth that he is truly the only man not only in this city but in this entire world. Thus, a female creature is vulnerable to the smell of pheromones emanating from this man, and close contact with him causes them a strong desire. After reading this, the elf asked that this sounds somehow very complicated. What does it mean? Well, in any case, she said that he still has some special abilities, as expected from her partner. Unlai did not consider this to be any special ability, and asked Sia for forgiveness, and then said that it seems he got carried away. Suddenly the horned woman grabbed his hand very tightly. She asked him why he was leaving. Unlai realized that he was too close. He approached this woman, and she smelled his pheromones. She grabbed his hands and said that his hands were very warm and gentle, but she didn't understand where this scent came from. She looked into his eyes. Her face was red and she said that she didn't understand what was happening to her, but she seemed to want more, and she told him to touch her. Coming from people of the opposite sex, they hide under body odor, and make men or women more attractive. This strong smell that any creature must have creates an incredible chemical reaction. Especially in this place, the horned woman grabbed the guy's hand and put it to herself. Unlai realized that everyone is vulnerable to this smell, but how can he use it to become a hero? Other women who were in this place also heard that this man was a male. Is there really something like that in this world? They looked at him in surprise, not understanding what he was. Unlai tried to move away, but the horned woman told him to touch her again. She didn't know what was happening to her because she had never felt anything like this, but she liked it. Unlai tried to pull his hand away from her, but he had nothing. She didn't even listen to him. Moreover, it is so strong that he cannot remove his hand. Unlai told Sia to stop this because everyone was looking at them. The elf came up to them and asked what was the matter. Did Sia really want to do the same thing as them in the forest? Suddenly Sia jumped back and asked for forgiveness. She said that she herself did not know what happened to her. She said that it was as if she had suddenly lost her mind. Her head was spinning. Unlai understood that her behavior was very strange. Unlai looked at his hand, trying to understand that in this world he has a special ability and that he is simply male. But is being a man really a special ability? Besides, he still couldn't just forget the moment he had just touched this horned woman. There was complete misunderstanding between them, because the women next to him felt like never before. He understood that he was the only one, and not only in this city. Is it really true that there are absolutely no men in this world? But if you remember, all the creatures he met were female, and they all reacted very strangely to his smell. Unlai behaved very strangely. The horned woman said that she was very sorry and should he stop looking at his hand. Unlai was immersed in his thoughts. He thought that when he initially found himself here, he got scared and rushed away. Then he wondered if maybe this place wasn't as bad as he thought. Maybe it was even a great place. Sia didn't understand why Unlai didn't answer her. Then she shouted that in that case she would escort them to their home. After some time, they came to their destination. It was a rather old house, or rather it was not even a house. Unlai was not very happy about the place he ended up in. The horned woman smiled and said that if they had already set up things here, she would leave. The woman was about to leave, but Unlai grabbed her and told her to stop. And what does this all mean? Why is she doing this to them? After all, there are cobwebs everywhere in this place. Moreover, this room is very tiny, and besides this, there are a lot of rags and rags here. But suddenly something began to move from under these rags. An elf appeared from there and said that this was a crib. I obviously like this place. She said that they didn't even need a room. Couldn't two of them sleep here? Sia said that now things are not going well in their guild, so she cannot provide them with better conditions. Unlai thought that this was some kind of typical deception. She said that it was very cool here. Unlai asked her, "Is it really comfortable here and the smell doesn't bother her?" The elf said that there is nothing wrong with this. It's still temporary. They'll move soon. Besides, this is an adventure. Isn't that great? Unlai thought that in this case they would just endure it. In any case, this is their starting point. There are only women in this world, and they are all either elves, half-humans and even monsters. It turns out that this world is full of women. This thought could not leave the guy. He thought that if this is all true, it means that they know absolutely nothing about men. He was thinking about taking advantage of this moment, and doing everything right. Suddenly a horned woman grabbed him by the clothes. She behaved very strangely and told the guy in an uncertain voice that she had some requests for him. She tore off her outerwear and asked if he could when he had time to teach her what they were doing with that elf then. Unlai looked at her with great surprise and did not understand whether something like this was really possible. Unlai tried to behave like a real gentleman. Therefore, he said that he could not teach her this. This is not some kind of competition. People should do this to continue their lineage. He closed his eyes and said that it is like a secret ceremony that takes place between people who are in love with each other. Even if she shows him her business, she will not be able to become what he loves. Unlai buttoned the top button on her clothes. The horned woman thought about what he had just said. Then she abruptly grabbed his hand. Unlai did not understand what she was going to do now. Her face changed. She looked very serious. The guy asked what she was doing. The horned lady grabbed his hand and led him along. He could not resist her. Unlai forbade her to stop, and then he began to call the elf to save him. Sia took him to another room and threw him on the floor as if he were her prisoner. She then quickly walked up to him and kissed him, before Unlai tried to tell her to calm down. But apparently she was no longer going to calm down, and she had serious intentions. Why did she ask him what needs to be done next? Unlai can't restrain herself. And she told her what she needed to do, and without thinking, she did it for a long time. Then some events happened again which you can see for yourself when you come to this mama. Suddenly an elf entered their room and asked what they were doing here. Sia suddenly stopped and became silent. The situation was very tense. Sia saw the elf and felt some strange shame in front of her, and tried to somehow justify herself. And then she jumped into the secret passage and disappeared, saying that they would see each other at the guild. Elphika asked what happened here and why is he sitting here without pants. Unlai thought that first there was an elf, and now this cow. He told her to return to the room. Meanwhile, the horned lady did not understand what was happening to her. It was very difficult for her. It seemed to her that she was sick. She lay on the bed and felt her face burning. What would she do tomorrow? She had never seen a man, and she did not want to touch him again. Then she intuitively decided to calm herself down, and she even succeeded. But still she thought that she needed that man. Only he could cure her. In the following events, some time later, Unlight picked up a sword and practiced to learn the skill of wielding a sword. A slime appeared next to him. It was to this that he came. He intended to defeat it. Slime Ito just saw him and immediately said that he was now her food. She quickly attacked him, and the guy concentrated and began to repel her attacks. After several days in this world, he remained stronger, and it turns out he has a cool skill called Divine Protection. Therefore, for this he was recognized as a warrior. Now he fought to hone his skills. He wanted to show his true strength. But suddenly, due to carelessness, he did not notice how the slime caught him by the leg. He looked at the ground and noticed that she had caught him with her tentacle and appeared from under the ground. Unlai realized that it seemed like the end had come for him. He was simply stupid. On him and before him you have such other women tried to get the most out of him. She liked it, but the guy couldn't resist, so he had to touch her core. He waited for the slime to lose his guard and somehow he grabbed his sword. He then struck her and crushed her vital core and her body began to evaporate. Thus he defeated this slime. The destruction is complete, and the word he almost failed. His legs were shaking and he didn't really have any divine protection or anything. He didn't get anything. An elf watched all this and asked him why he was so popular among monsters. Unlai told her that he was almost killed just now, and he doesn't know if this is connected with that. But it seems that this also applies to monsters, because his pheromones attract even monsters. And not only ordinary creatures but also monsters. These are also feminine. Thanks to this, they focus only on him, and he does the most difficult work, because it happens that one person is attacked by 10 and sometimes 30 slugs. The elf said that he did a great job. He attracted all the monsters that were there, and she was glad that it was all over quickly. Unlai said that he agreed, but the truth is that Vanilla's power is too great, and as soon as they got involved, she received a gold rank. Unlai did not receive any rank. He is simply unranked, almost a failure. But this confuses him very much. He thought that he was the main character. How is this possible? They did not earn their own living. They received 10 shillings for this task. Unlai said that 10 shillings would be enough for 2 days of accommodation, some food, but the rest of the needs, clothing, and something better for this money would not be enough. He thought that this was not the life he had hoped for in this world. He needed to improve his equipment because this was not enough to continue. In addition, he is an adventurer without a rank who receives a task only for slime, and he believes that for the elf he is nothing more than ballast. He wanted to become stronger. The elf touched him and said that he looked bad. Was it really because of the slugs? Unlai asked why she thought so. The girl replied that she was worried, because she thought that he was sick. Unlai said that it was all because of this town. He was embarrassed that he was the only man here. After all, there are only women here, and all the clothes are women's too, and even the toilets are only for women, so he is not very comfortable here. And he also sees women walking around without clothes on the street. Then he realized that it was not imaginary to him, and he was in culture shock. Is this really real? He saw a woman in some kind of religious clothing. I didn't understand. Is this really real? Maybe it's just cosplay? How can she dress like that? Isn't there a concept of a man in this world? Then there are no boundaries for everyone else. And there's not even such a thing as chastity. A woman in black clothes approached our hero and said that she was glad to see adventurers here. She said that she was looking for them. Unlai asked in surprise why they were needed. Now let's learn a little more about goblins. This is a little monster thief. Their small stature and small intelligence make them easy to hunt, but they can be dangerous. When there are too many of them, they pose a special danger, because goblins are organized. Each group contains from 10 to 50 individuals. With this amount of power, any person will be in danger if he is not careful. It was the goblins that Unlai and his assistant were now hunting. They were in ambush. Unlai understood that this was their first major mission that he received in this world. They were near the goblin cave. Well, let's find out a little more about how they got this mission. The woman they met on the street was named Christina, and she would like to offer them a job. Unlai thought that it was very difficult for him to look into her eyes. Christina grabbed his face and looked closely at his eyes. While she looked into his eyes, Unlai understood that he could not think. Christina told him to calm down because these are not demons or monsters with enormous power. Christina noticed that this man was behaving very strangely, and the elf told her to move away from him because he is a man, and he has special abilities. He has a weapon that attracts monsters and more, even from a distance. But then she said that it didn't work on her. Unlai asked what she was talking about. That time at the first meeting it was. But it doesn't look like it, because then she attacked him herself. Then this woman in black clothes said that this was incredible. But there were rumors about elves who were accompanied by a dangerous person with a strange skill, and this turned out to be true. They even talked about the difference in their ranks, with all the abilities that this elf has. Unlai said that he needed to return to her request, but before that, let him change his words for calling him a dangerous person, and the fact that the skill is strange. She asked him for forgiveness, and said that she asked them to exterminate all the goblins in their vicinity. Unlai asked why she was doing this. If we are talking about exterminating goblins, wouldn't it be better to recruit seekers from the guild and entrust it to them? The woman in black clothes said that they want this issue to be resolved as soon as possible. They can't even imagine what will happen if they wait even a little. Unlai asked what she was saying, and the woman asked if he knew their city in the Great Barrier. The city is invisible to the eye until certain conditions are met. Unlai told his companion that Sia told them about this. This is due to a relic that has been kept in this place for a long time, but it recently went missing. After all, the goblins stole this relic. A woman in black clothes named Christina said that she wants them to solve this problem and restore the barrier as soon as possible, and she wants a skilled adventurer to do this in a small group so that as few people as possible know about it. Unlai said that from the very beginning he thought that there was a catch. At some points it did not make sense. Unlai turned around and began to leave. He said that if they allowed an incident of this magnitude, then in that case they should take care of it themselves. Christina told them to stop. Under the influence of the artifact, monsters can gain incredible power. Will they really just leave, because it seems like a disaster and many people will die? Unlai suggested leaving, that he didn't care. Suddenly Christina told us that she would give them 1,000 shillings. Unlai said that if she thought that he would risk his life for such a measly sum, then she was mistaken. Christina said the amount was 3,000 shillings. And thus Unlai found himself in this place, and was about to capture several goblins. She said that it was very good. Unlai began to bargain with Christina, and in the end the payment became even more, and if she were in his place, she agreed for 1,000 shillings. Unlai blushed and said that this was the only thing he could do for her. The elf asked what he was talking about. Unlai said that isn't she more experienced? It looks like a mission where he won't be of any use. She smiled and said that is he really afraid of weak goblins? Unlai said that this is not so, but the effect of the relic made the goblins stronger, and they need to take the relic from them as soon as possible. Unlai thought that even though the enemy is strong, he will have a hard time with her skills. If you follow the rules of the task, then there will be no problems. The elf said that she had an idea. Unlai asked what idea she had. Vanilla immediately went into the cave and said that they would enter through the main entrance. Unlai asked her to stop, but the elf used a strategy called shut up and just be like that. Unlai was thinking about what he should do. Maybe he should go after her. Her only drawback is that she is very stupid. Unlai thought that she was an adventurer of Byato rank after all, so he had no need to worry. And then he thought that after all, those monsters have an artifact with which they become stronger. If this is so, they will quickly grab her, and she will no longer be able to do anything. I think about this. He has already fantasized a lot about himself. But he forgot a very important thing, because everyone in this world is a woman. He thought that his thoughts could not be reality because everyone here was female. But still, he decided that he needed to help her and ran after her, fearing the worst. He wandered through these caves. There were many luminous stones that illuminated the way. I didn't understand where she had gone. At first the cave turned out to be dark, but now it is completely illuminated by the stones, like fireflies. This cave was originally a mine for the extraction of azure stone. Unlai thought that they used this material as street lamps. Thanks to these stones, he sees everything around him, which means that the goblins can see him. He needs to be careful. Suddenly he heard a woman's voice calling for help, and he immediately ran in that direction. He ran very fast and finally saw someone's silhouette. It was a small girl who was sitting on the earth. Unlai approached her and asked what happened. Was she really lost in this cave? In the place where she was sitting the lighting was as bad as possible, and he could not see her face. The girl said that she was lost, Her family and others moved on. But here it was so dark, and her leg hurt very much, and she could not walk. I thought that she was from a village that was destroyed by goblins. We need to help her and quickly find Vanilla. He approached the stranger and said that he was the person who would help her get home. She was glad that it was a man and immediately jumped to her feet, ran up to him, and hugged him. Unlai thought that even the girls of this world received damage from monsters. He asked her was she scared. The girl said that evil goblins are unforgivable, they are terrible. Unlai just realized that she said that her leg hurt a lot. Then he took a closer look at her, coming out a little into the light, and saw that there was a goblin right in front of him. She said that he was stupid. He examined her green body and pointed ears. She has rough green skin and wide pointed ears. Suddenly he received a strong blow to the head from behind. I did not have time to react and lost consciousness. When he woke up, he was already tied up and had a bandage on his face that did not allow him to speak. Looking around, he noticed that there were several more goblins there who were going to cook something in a huge vat. One of them said that today we have delicious human soup for dinner. Unlai looked around and realized that human remains were lying here. It looked like they were eating people. In addition, he is now located in the very center of the goblin settlement. There are a lot of them, and they are everywhere. They are busy getting ready to cook it for lunch. He didn't know what was happening to the artifact, and where the elf was. One of the goblins came up to him when she saw that he had woken up and said that dinner had already woken up. Unlai tried to say something but his mouth was sealed and he could only hum. The goblin said that it would be better to cook him alive. But the problem is that he is conscious. Then she grabbed a knife and tried to cut off his head. Unlai quickly dodged and she didn't have time to kill him. She was even surprised that he was so fast. Unlai realized that he had just almost died. He never thought that running away from the slime would help him so much. He was thinking about, is this the end? The green lady said that now she would aim elsewhere. Suddenly, another goblin came up to her and punched her sister in the face, causing her to drop the knife. She grabbed her by the neck and asked what she was doing. She was trying to cut the food when there was no order from the captain yet. She already told her about this, because she said personally that she would do this using her new sword. By the way, the name of the manhwa is A World Without Men. Unlai realized that this new sword was the very religion that needed to be returned. He did not know how to contact the elf. Suddenly one of the goblins said that she smelled some unusual smell and asked her sister if she could smell it. Unlai understood that he needed to somehow get out of this as quickly as possible. After all, they were learning or his pheromones. One of the goblins began to breathe heavily. She felt a strange feeling inside her. Her legs began to tremble. They tried to understand where this smell was coming from and looked around. One of them said that she thought it was the smell from this person. They should check it out. They quickly pounced on him. They wanted to bite him to try how tasty he was. Then they began to taste it, and Unlai could not do anything about it. He was ticklish. But suddenly other goblins sensed this smell and began to run towards the man. They began to examine him and asked the other goblins, "Is it really this smell that comes from him?" They thought that the smell was very tasty. But suddenly after they tasted it more, something else happened. Naturally, like every man, he cannot withstand such heavy pressure, and the goblins saw something they had never seen before. When they looked closer, the smell became even stronger, and one of them simply fell to the ground, feeling something completely new. She tried to calm herself down. The other goblins looked at her in bewilderment. What was she doing? When they also began to feel the same feeling that the first one felt. They didn't understand what kind of thing this man had. They had never seen anything like this before and they wanted to study this thing. Unlai could not stand it, and immediately exploded. Each of them wanted to try what it was like to fight among themselves. Unlai lay on the floor and thought that he could only read about this in some comic books. They somehow organized me and decided that each of them would try to get the most out of this person. They all attacked him and Unlai could not do anything about it. He thought that they were incredibly cruel. Their bodies are too small and an ordinary person is too big for them. This happened over and over again and Unlai felt that his consciousness was beginning to disappear. He realized that he could not escape from them. Suddenly he noticed that someone was watching them. This woman asked them what they were doing. Unlai there was already hope that it could be Vanilla. But it wasn't her. It was another green woman who held a sword in her hand and she asked didn't she order them not to touch the food when she came? Do they really want the freshness to disappear? She walked straight to them and asked did they really want to die? The goblins greeted the captain. Unlai realized that this was the same goblin captain. Then the goblin captain also sensed his pheromone and attacked him. She asked if he knew the reason why he was still alive. It was because her subordinates told her that he had something that no one else had. The goblins watched with interest what the leader was doing and they wanted to be in her place. Unlai was already completely exhausted. Finally the head of the goblins calmed down. The guy thought that he would no longer be able to withstand these tortures. He lay on the floor and thought that it was very dangerous. He wasted his time, and now it would be very difficult for him to escape. He could only wait for Vanilla to save him. The goblins found the belt, and said that this belt smelled very strange. Unlai recognized this belt, and he realized that it belonged to the elf. The goblin captain said that this thing probably belonged to the one or the physicist she killed. Unlai was shocked by what he heard. He heard the goblins talking among themselves that their captain killed that blonde Alpha she met on her rounds. How many did she kill? The goblin captain said that Alpha is a very formidable opponent for them, which is why they are so hated. But now everything is different. After all, she has this weapon. Thanks to such a weapon she can tear this elf into pieces. But in the end, her fall from the cliff was really impressive. What a pity that they never tried the elf's meat. One of the goblins said that she was glad that they still had this man's meat. Unlai could not come to terms with that thought. He was simply horrified by what he heard. Had Vanilla really died? The goblin approached him and addressed him, calling him meat. Unlai begged them to spare him. The goblin captain said that of course they would spare him as long as he was useful to them, and she attacked him again. And also the other goblins were also going to take advantage of this man. He thought that if he had tried harder, Vanilla would not have died. Many different interesting events also happened there. Unlai fought in every possible way to survive. Suddenly, a symbol appeared on the sword. Turned off this symbol was like a power button. Unlai called the cat to someone so that someone would give him strength. And suddenly someone appeared. It was some woman with pink hair who said that he smelled of something very pleasant. Unlai was very surprised when he saw her. He did not know who she was and why she came here. She looked into his eyes carefully and asked, "Is he really a man?" At that moment the guy thought that he had some hope for salvation. He was wondering who this was. This girl who was flying in the air was clearly some kind of powerful one. He thought that she looked like some kind of goddess. But he wasn't entirely sure about it. The girl with pink hair already wanted to introduce herself and say who she was. But Unlai did not let her finish and asked, could she really be a messenger from the other world? He started saying that it looked like the end was coming, and that he would probably die alone. At the same time, many more goblins were waiting for their turn. Unlai continued to do what he had to do in order not to die prematurely. He thought that it was probably good that he could die after having fun. The girl with pink hair looked at this whole process, and our hero said in a voice that Vanilla died because of him. He was very sad about this, because he was constantly grumbling and not letting the girl who arrived here say who she was. The lady with pink hair hit the guy in the face so that he would stop talking. Meanwhile, the head of the goblins was already fast asleep. You could even hear her snoring. After the girl with pink hair hit our hero in the face, he felt severe pain. The blow was so strong that even the goblin girl who was right next to the guy also felt this powerful blow. She fell to the ground, losing consciousness, and Unlai came to his senses a little and grabbed his cheek. Now he looked at the one who had arrived here so unexpectedly and asked her who she was. The pink-haired girl said that she is the Sword Fairy, and she received the title from the female deity a long time ago, and she is also the one who controls the barrier. Unlai watched her with great surprise. He watched her clothes flutter in the air. Unlai didn't understand who this Sword Fairy was. He asked her to clarify what all this meant. But the goblins still continued to attack our hero. The fairy replied that no one except him could see her now. One of the goblins grabbed our hero and pressed him to herself. The fairy screamed that she wanted to say something important, and let him finally listen to her carefully. Unlai told her that he couldn't do anything now, because if he couldn't satisfy all these goblins, he would just become a piece of meat and they would be watching him for lunch. Then the fairy was surprised that he was able to deal with so many goblins, and now most of them simply cannot do anything. She decided to watch what was happening for a while, and the scene amazed her. She also felt the same smell that emanated from our hero, and the sounds that came from the cave began to excite her. She looked at the guy and asked, "Is this really the same martial art technique she could only hear about?" Unlai was having a hard time. He thought that it would be better if she left if she wasn't going to help him. and besides, it was hard for him to concentrate when she was constantly watching. He remembered his past life in the human world and remembered how his beloved dog watched him when he was alone. This is the very feeling he felt now when this fairy was watching him. The fairy gave a definition of the process that was happening here now, and no one knew this word in this world except Unlai and the fairy, so our hero asked in surprise, "Does she really know what this means?" And she also asked him if he was a man. Now Unlai understood that she really was not from this world. He became interested in whether she knew anything about men. This was really very interesting for our hero at the moment. The fairy smiled and asked if he was really that interested, in which case she wanted to make a deal with him. She told him that she heard the voice of his soul. He was very disappointed, and this loud voice attracted her. Unlai thought again about the elf with whom he traveled, and he felt very sad again. He said that he lost an important person because of his weakness, and now he is just a piece of meat for these monsters. The fairy said that she wants to give him power against them, but he must fulfill one condition for her. Unlai understood that he would not get anything for free, and he asked, "What are these conditions?" The fairy said that this was the wish of her whole life, and she wanted him to do to her what he did to those goblins. She also told our hero that she had not been touched by anyone, and he would be the first man in her life. Unlai didn't feel very well after these words. He shouted loudly, "Why did she do this?" The fairy said that everything was exactly like that. All this time she was not touched by a man. But for so many years now all she has done is work, and it seems to her that everything inside her is already overgrown with cobwebs. Besides, she said that the guy urgently needs power now. Does he really want to die in this cave with goblins? She just wants to give him the right to choose. Unlai asked her why she was so angry. The fairy answered that it seemed to her that he was making fun of her. Unlai said that he simply heard from her a few words that he had never heard in this world, and it became strange to him that she knew these words. And then the fairy told him to make his choice quickly. He can live with her or die right here among these goblins. Unlai was very worried, and then he said that he really wanted to live. I looked him in the eyes and said that if he really wanted this, then she would help him with it. She shouted to him that in that case he should grab the sword that was lying near him. As soon as she said this, his whole body reacted instantly. He threw the goblins away from him and started to run away quickly. The goblins thought that he wanted to run away and shouted to catch him quickly. Unlai ran as fast as he could. He thought that he would definitely survive and fought off the goblins with all his might. But suddenly the goblins pounced on him and grabbed him, knocking him to the ground. One of them said that they should cut off his legs so that he would not escape. Unlai was already very close to the sword and almost grabbed it. The goblins said that they were very hungry. Unlai heard the fairy tell him to say his name at the end. The guy concentrated and made another push forward, grabbing the sword and saying his name. Immediately at that moment there was a strong surge of energy, and a lot of dust rose into the air. The goblins simply started flying in different directions from this blast wave. They didn't understand what happened here. They were waiting for the dust to clear so they could pounce on our hero again. Now our hero stood up and was determined to fight those who wanted to harm him. The head of the goblins woke up at this moment, and looked at what happened here. Unlai was very determined and shouted for them to come to him. The goblins looked in surprise as he grabbed the captain's sword, and they still didn't understand what had just exploded. They were shocked by what kind of person it was who managed to take possession of the captain's sword. Unlai gripped the ball's handle tightly in his hands and shouted, "How dare they do this to Vanilla?" Unlai was so serious at this moment that the goblin was even scared when he rushed at them. The guy ran forward. He was ready to destroy absolutely everyone in his path. Approaching the goblins, he shouted that he would never forgive them for killing the elf. While he was running forward, the sword fairy had already attacked the goblins before Unlai even got close to them. Everything happened very quickly. The guy froze in place from surprise, because everything happened differently than he imagined. It was not he who beat all these goblins, but the fairy who got ahead of our hero and protected him. Watching all this, Unlai felt that he was somehow even awkward in this situation. The goblins started to run away, and the guy told the fairy that the contract was still a very serious thing. She was able to immediately approach such a large number of goblins. Unlai thought that it seemed like he had become about as strong as she was. He was already thinking about how he could use this power. Suddenly something happened that he did not expect. The fairy screamed that he could not be forgiven. After that, she hit him very hard in the face. The guy did not understand why she hit him. She hit him in the same place where she hit him the first time, but at that moment he felt that the pain was not as strong as last time. He became curious about what happened, and then he asked the fairy why this happened. And then even stranger things started to happen. The fairy began to shrink in size. Unlai asked her why she had shrunk so much. She had become very tiny. The girl with pink hair screamed that it was all because of him, because he was very weak. Unlai didn't understand why she blamed him for her shrinking. She screamed that if she had known what would happen, she would not have offered him a deal. She was especially upset that her pectoral muscles had shrunk. They were already small. She grabbed her head and screamed that now she wouldn't be able to do what she planned with such a small body. If she tried to do something, she would die. She was very upset, and said that she already thought that her dream would come true. In this world nothing happens by desire. Unlai asked her for forgiveness. And then he said that as far as he knows, she has a relic, and if he fulfills her wish, she can make him even stronger? The fairy screamed that she would hit him again, and she hit him in the face again. She screamed at him to stop talking nonsense. The contracts originally didn't even mention such power. She told him to listen to her carefully. Her size shows the strength of the one she spoke to. Accordingly, her strength depends on the general statistics of the one who makes the contract. Before they made the contract, she was of normal size. If she had made a contract with someone very strong, then she would have greatly increased during the deal. Unlai was still just glad that he eventually seemed to have become stronger. He just had slightly low parameters to begin with. But still, according to the contract, he became a little stronger. She was just recently so good at smashing goblins. The fairy closed her eyes and said that there was one downside, and tears appeared in her eyes. She said that he was so weak that because of this she became smaller. Unlai was very weak and became even worse, and the fairy also became weaker. Now all she can do is catch goblins. And Unlai can't even do that. She's stronger even in hand-to-hand combat, and our hero is weaker than the goblins. Unlai was upset when he heard these words. He is worse than a goblin, a special combat talent that is only good as a penalty. The fairy shouted that there is still a way out of this situation. She will force him to train until he gets his normal body back. Unlai was about to leave this cave, but suddenly he heard a familiar voice that asked him where this unfortunate piece of meat was headed. Immediately after these words, he looked where the voice was coming from and saw that an axe was flying straight at him. He froze at that moment, and the whole world around him seemed to freeze too. He thought that he needed to dodge, and that he needed to run away from here. Suddenly he felt that his legs did not obey him. They simply did not move. He froze in a daze. So that he wouldn't stand there like a statue, she immediately used her strength to stop the axe. Unlai didn't know what was happening to his body at that moment. He screamed for Miss Fairy to be careful. The fairy was very angry at this moment. She thought that she had completely forgotten about the head of the goblins. She used a force shield, but since her strength was weakened, the axe was able to destroy her defense. Therefore, the fairy was wounded in the arm. She did not have enough strength to stop this blow. But she wasn't going to give up. She decided that she had to cope no matter what it took. And she succeeded. But blood was coming from the wound in her arm, and she was breathing heavily. Unlai looked closely at the fairy and asked her why she was exposing herself to such a blow. The fairy replied, that isn't it obvious? When will there be another chance like this? If he doesn't exist, how can she become a woman? At that moment, she began to lose consciousness. Unlai managed to catch her with his hand and pressed her to himself, asking if she was okay. The fairy replied that everything was fine, she just ran out of strength. But what's more important is the smell of a real man really drives you crazy. If she had been this size initially, then everything would have happened completely differently now. And in general they should have kissed each other hard before the contract. Then she felt the last of the forces leave her body, and she told him to run faster. Our hero understood that he needed to run as fast as possible right now, otherwise the goblins would simply eat him this time. From the depths of the cave, that familiar voice was heard again. The Goblin Queen screamed that he had escaped from her subordinates, and now he was turning away from blows. She took back her weapon. Her axe was tied to a chain. She asked, is he not just meat for pleasure? Unlai again froze in place, clutching the fairy in his hand and thinking that it was too late to run. But it's still worth a try. He has no other choice. The Goblin Queen started throwing her axe at him again. The guy ran as fast as he could, trying to save his life and also save the fairy. He tried to hide behind the walls of the cave so that the axe would not hit him. The Goblin Queen laughed loudly and shouted that he would not be able to run away from her forever. Unlai was already tired of running and he didn't know these labyrinths. It was difficult for him to come up with a new plan. All he could think about now was that he was in some kind of hell, and this was the most terrible situation in his life. And now the instinct of self-preservation was at work in him, which did not allow him to stop, and he dodged the blows again and again. The Goblin Queen was very surprised that he held on for so long and dodged again. Unlai thought that there was still some distance between him and the Goblin Queen, and there were also quite a lot of obstacles in the form of stones. Also, since the attack is direct, the stupid green woman screams every time she attacks, so it's easy to recognize her location. He also thought that he was grateful to the slime for teaching him the maximum level of evasion. Now he was glad that he had once met the slime and that the slime teacher had taught him running lessons. After all, her training is helping him a lot right now in this difficult situation. The whole time he was running forward, the guy was thinking that he needed to find a way out of this cave, and the task would be completed if he managed to do it. And then he would be rewarded and he would become decently rich, and then he would avenge Vanilla. These thoughts did not allow him to give up. The head of the goblins became angry and saw that he was already approaching the exit of the cave. She screamed that he was still running in circles, but it was time to put an end to it. She gathered all her strength together and swung with such force that she would destroy this guy once and for all. The axe began to whistle and fly rapidly straight towards our hero's back. Unlai ran fast enough, but not faster than that axe was flying. He sensed very well in time that danger was about to overtake him, and that this could be the last day of his life. Therefore, he stopped abruptly and made a maneuver to the side, changing the trajectory of his movement. But the more he dodged, the better he improved his skills. He was glad that he managed to escape such a deadly attack. Unlai thought that this was the last attack, but the Goblin Queen didn't think so. She laughed loudly. The green woman screamed that he was a fool and quickly created a pulse in her chain. In this way, she changed the movement of the axe and it began to rotate along a different trajectory. Unlai did not expect such a turn of events, and saw that the tip of the axe was flying straight into his chest. He quickly realized that with the help of the chain his enemy had changed the trajectory of her flight. The Goblin Queen laughed loudly and thought that now he would not be able to escape. Unlai understood that he would no longer be able to dodge such an attack and regretted that he had not even thought about it. His last thoughts before dying were that he would not be able to avenge Vanilla. His path was over. But something happened that he didn't expect. Vanilla appeared right in front of him and repelled the attack and saved Unlai. The guy was shocked at that moment, because he thought that she had already died and he would never see her again. The blow was so strong that the axe quickly flew to the side and plunged into the stone. Vanilla was bleeding. She said that she had a very bad headache. It looked like she hit herself very hard. Unlai froze in place. His surprise knew no bounds. Tears appeared in his eyes. He was very glad that Vanilla was alive and shouted her name at the top of his voice. I was also glad to see him and looked at the guy, asking him how he was doing with the assignment. Unlai dropped his sword to the floor from such surprise. He was still looking at the elf. He looked into her eyes and asked if it was really her. He really hoped that it wasn't some kind of illusion. The girl with the pointy ears said that of course it was her. She was Vanilla Ice who went on a journey to prove herself, but she didn't have time to finish her speech. Unlai quickly ran up to her and hugged her tightly. The girl was surprised by this turn of events. Unlai cried and said that he was very worried. He thought that something had happened to her. Vanilla suddenly froze and said nothing. The whole world seemed to freeze. She only heard that the guy who was hugging her was crying bitter tears. Vanilla also hugged him very tightly and told her that she didn't expect this from him, and also now she wanted to be alone with him. At that moment, Unlai stopped crying and he felt somehow sad that everyone in this world wanted only one thing from him. Vanilla said that she is not against power, it is right here. Unlai remembered that it is better for him not to get so close to her after all. The smell has a very specific effect on everyone in this world. Unlai told her to wait and better reconsider the time and place. The elf told him to shut up and take off his pants, and let him not even think about sleep today. Unlai resisted, trying to explain to the elf that now was not the best time. The Goblin Queen watched all this, and she could not believe her eyes. It seemed to her that she clearly remembered that she killed this elf, so why was she still alive? The goblin asked the elf in a surprised voice how this was even possible. She asked her how she survived, This turn of events confused her. The elf stopped and looked at the goblin. She did not understand what this green woman was talking about. And then she grabbed Unli by the face and screamed, "Is he really dead?" The guy answered her that it was not about him but about her. The stupid elf looked at the goblin again and asked, "Is he really asking about her?" And then it became very scary here. The elf wondered, "Is she really dead?" The goblin screamed that she saw everything herself, and let them pretend that they didn't understand anything. She remembered the moment when she hit Vanilla with her sword, and then the elf began to fall from a high cliff right before the goblin's eyes. The goblin queen herself watched everything and made sure that she had definitely finished her off. At that moment she struck her with her sword so hard that it cut through her belt, which she took as a trophy. Finally she understood what was going on and asked if she really was the goblin who threw her down. The goblin queen screamed, "That's exactly what she's talking about." The goblin queen also threw her the belt that she still had. Vanilla was going to tell how she survived. She smiled and stuck out her tongue and then said she was just pretending. Unli was also interested to know how it all happened. He asked her what she meant. The elf asked the guy, didn't he know the basics when he fought the goblin? Then she began to teach him and said that the first thing he needed to understand was that goblins live in packs. In a group everyone plays their roles, even if those he met were hunters, then their nest is very well hidden. Secondly, goblins are big collectors. They don't care what they pick up from a dead traveler. Therefore, it is mainly necessary to study the location of the nest, so that she would not be discovered. She pretended to be dead and left a belt in front of the goblin on which her scent remained. When she fell to the ground, she was already thinking that she had managed to catch the goblin perfectly with a fishing rod. The goblin was very happy and simply took the belt, and her mission would end as soon as she found the nest by smell. She found this plan quite ingenious, but she did not calculate one thing: the landing would be quite painful. Then she hit her head hard, but it didn't stop her from getting to her feet and continuing her journey. But the first thing she felt when she raised her head was that she forgot who she was. She also forgot where she was. Unli finally understood why she was gone for so long. He shouted that it was very dangerous, and what if she hurt her head and lost part of her memory? He scolded her, and said that she would drive him crazy. He also asked what happened to her next. The elf answered that she only hit the wall a couple of times. The goblin queen said that this could not be. She was furious at being deceived. She looked at the elf with anger and asked her if this fool had really deceived her. Unli was very tense at this moment. He understood that the enraged goblin queen would not leave this just like that. He felt that an incredibly powerful energy of malice was emanating from her, and the atmosphere was filled with an incredible thirst for death. Could it be that when she was running after him, these were just flowers? Suddenly a fairy turned to him. She asked him why he didn't run away, and he forgot about her and threw her on the ground. She began to attack him with her light blows and scolded him because he just left the fairy. Unli asked her for forgiveness. Vanilla looked at the fairy in surprise and then asked, "Is she real?" The fairy also looked at the elf with surprise and asked, "Can she really see her?" While they were talking to each other, the goblin did not waste time and attacked them all. She screamed that they couldn't just ignore her like that. The elf grabbed the fairy and jumped away with her. She reacted quite well. Unli took a kick to the stomach and fell on his head, a rather nasty landing. It seemed to him that he had 0% health left, and he would definitely die soon. The elf asked the guy if he was alive, and he answered with the last of his strength that he was alive. She got angry and screamed that this low-grade goblin should not interfere with them, and she did not dare touch Unli. Vanilla screamed that she would not spare the goblin, and the goblin queen screamed that the elf had hit him in the stomach. The green woman was very angry and asked, "Do they all think she's stupid?" The elf said that she would start killing goblins starting with her. The fairy asked if the elf was really going to fight without a weapon. The girl with white hair turned her attention to the fairy, who thanked her for saving her. Then the fairy said that this was very important information, so she should listen carefully. The girl with pink hair said that she was the sword fairy watching over the barrier in the town, and now she was the property of Unli. She also said that this goblin is a monster that has already contacted her, and her strength and intelligence are different from those of ordinary goblins. Vanilla asked the fairy if she was really that humble sword. The fairy said that you can't judge people by their appearance. She also said that it means that an elf shouldn't get into a fight just like that, especially empty-handed. She might just die. The fairy suggested that everyone run away from here, but the elf said that she did not want to run away anywhere. The fairy asked if the elf was really out of her mind. Vanilla replied that she was in her right mind. Unlai had done part of the job and brought the sword here. Now the elf had to complete her mission. She said that the creature is evil. If they don't do anything about it, this city will be in danger. That's why they need to prevent it. Because it's a warrior's duty. The green woman laughed and asked, "Does this girl really think she's a warrior? She's just a little dog that's going to go to the Demon Queen soon." The Goblin Queen said that if she wanted to become a warrior, she would fail because she would die right now. At that moment, she immediately attacked the elf with her axe. She was going to kill her instantly. The fairy asked the elf why she was standing still. She should dodge. The axe was getting closer and closer. It was already almost at the girl's head. Well, something happened that the Goblin Queen definitely didn't expect. The girl with white hair quickly grabbed the axe with her hand. Nobody expected this. The fairy looked in surprise at how the elf caught this axe at such speed. The Goblin Queen was shocked. Vanilla said that this is one of the best qualities of a chain weapon. Due to the length it can be thrown and after the attack it can be picked up. But the downside of this weapon is that your enemy can take it away. And she quickly pulled the chain with her hand. She made a few deft movements, and very quickly tied up the Goblin Queen with chains. Everything happened quickly enough that even such an experienced warrior as the Goblin Queen did not have time to do anything. Vanilla quickly pulled the Goblin Queen towards her, and swung her arm to deal a crushing blow. Right in flight, the Goblin Queen screamed for the elf to stop, because she would move far away from here and would not even get close to the town. But it was too late. The elf dealt her a crushing blow right in the face. From such a powerful blow, the goblin flew back several meters. She fell to the ground with a hard hit, and was breathing heavily. She had never been hit so hard in her life. The elf sighed with relief and then said that the mission to clear the goblins was successfully completed. Unlai told her that this was not so. The following events take place after they return to the temple where they began their journey. They told everything to the woman with black hair, and also that Unlai had made a contract with the sword. Then the priestess was very upset by this incident and asked, how did it happen that now the sword became his property? Unlai thought that it looked like this mission had failed after all. Everything had gone completely wrong. After some time, Unlai sat on the training grounds and was sad because he tried so hard but he did not receive a reward, and even went into the red. It's just the cost of broken armor, lodging. How much more slime do I need to kill to pay for this? The fairy said that everything really turned out a little awkward. But he had no choice and it was urgent, and the only one who could help the fairy with the barrier was him. If he hadn't signed the contract, then after that axe he might not have existed. Unlai recalled the recent incidents and thought that everything was so. The fairy said that between 3,000 shillings and life, one must choose life, and it was only because of her that he remained alive. He just needed to know about it and be grateful. Unlai replied that of course he owed her. Without her help nothing would have happened. He wanted to say that he would gain strength and thank her. But looking at the dissatisfied fairy, he asked what was wrong this time. The fairy replied that her life simply seemed terribly dull to her, and this depressed her greatly. She signed a contract with a guy just so she could finally become a woman. Her body is now not adapted to love because it has shrunk due to his weakness. She said that it can be tolerated. But no matter how much time it takes, she will still make him strong. The fairy asked Unlai how many times a day does he receive love? Unlai, you asked why I need this information? After all, since they started living together, the fairies have had to observe the same thing every day. Vanilla pounces on the guy every morning and he explains to her that they are already late, and they urgently need to go. And every time they do this, and all the fairy can do is hide and watch all this, and it really irritates her. And even in those moments when she was distracted and the next time she looked at the guy, he was already being attacked by monsters. Then she remembered that the same red-haired woman with horns came to him and constantly called him somewhere. Most often she invites him to have lunch with her on the weekend, and at the same time she drags him somewhere. Unlai often says that he doesn't mind, but let her let go of his hand. The fairy often watches him get into different situations with other girls over and over again. She explained to him that it was very painful for her. It was very hard for her because she had become so small and could only watch. Is it really so bad that she only wants to be in their place one day? Unlai remembered the very question that had been bothering him ever since they met. He asked the fairy how she even knew who men were, because from his observations no one here even knew that he was a guy. And she also knows other words unknown in this world. He was interested in how she knows all this. The fairy replied that she knew this because in this world, a long time ago, there were men. For our hero this was a real discovery. He asked if this was really so. The fairy replied that everything was exactly like that, but it was in the distant past. She also said that in this world men died out several thousand years ago, and after that no more were born. Anlai listened to her words with great surprise. Although he had already become accustomed to some very unusual things in this world, he was still surprised by what he heard. He asked what happened. The fairy answered that she also didn't know what happened then, but there was an incident related to it. She began to tell that during that period warriors died. Most of them died at the hands of the Demon King. Therefore, that time was filled with blood and chaos reigned around, and men also began to disappear. The fairy said that she had promised to tell him, and that was all she knew about the guys, although she herself didn't know if it was true. But she could definitely say that only a goddess or a demon king could live for thousands of years. Speaking of this, she shone very brightly and then asked, "Isn't it impressive? This body is a holy relic that has been preserved in those times." She asked the guy if he wanted to know anything else. Anlai replied that there was something else that he was very interested in. He asked how are children born in this world. The fairy began to behave very strangely, trying to answer something. She was clearly confused. Then she scratched her head and said that she didn't know. She said that it just happened somehow. But if he wants to know more, then he needs to become stronger. And he should also look for those who may know some information. Anlai rose from the block on which he was sitting and said that he would step away for a while. When the fairy asked where he was going, the guy replied that he was going to the toilet. He started walking and the fairy followed him. The guy asked her why is she still flying after him. She replied that she wanted to at least look. Anlai told her to stay here. She can't even go to the toilet in peace. Finally he found some privacy and was able to relieve himself. And while he was doing so he thought about some things. He thought about the words of the fairy who said that if he wanted to know more, he needed to become stronger. He thought that it looked like this would be a new quest, and there were demons in this world. He was wondering what these demons looked like, and would he meet them when he became stronger? But if you think about it, he is much weaker than goblins. Won't it be difficult to deal with demons? Suddenly Anlai noticed that something was wrong and that someone was watching him. He noticed that there was a girl sitting next to him and looking at him. He asked for forgiveness, and said that he did not notice her, and then began to quickly try to get away from there. But he slipped and fell right on that girl. This situation was very funny. Anlai quickly rose to his feet, and the stranger asked him for forgiveness for the situation that had occurred. The guy was at a loss as to what to do now. Should he ask her to apologize again or apologize himself? If he were in his own world it would be a tragedy. A strange girl asked if he was feeling okay. When Anlai fell, he got dirty and his head was spinning. He wanted to wash his face. All his thoughts were focused on how far away from here there was a source of water. The stranger saw that he felt quite awkward and said that she wanted to sort it out. Then the dirt from his face came off and magically flew into the air. It was the magic of that stranger. Anlai thought that the cane that appeared in the hand of the girl in front of him was as unexpected as this whole situation. While we were not talking, suddenly a slime appeared and grabbed the girl's staff. She didn't expect such a turn of events and hesitated a little, as at that very moment the slime grabbed her. She screamed because she was quite helpless. Anlai asked her if she was okay. Anlai heard the courage of voices repeating the word sacrifice. They said it was a sacrifice. There appeared a lot of mucus which indicated that they had removed the obstacle, and it was time for the sacrifice. Anlai was surprised that there was a lot of this slime here. He thought that he should run. The stranger who fell into the trap said that she was okay, although it was obvious that she was not okay. She said that there was a lot of slime here, and it would be difficult for her to fight them. Anlai watched a very complex picture of the struggle, and he froze in place. And then he thought that at that moment he was busy with something completely different. He should come to his senses. The stranger screamed not to get acquainted and run away from here before it was too late. Anlai screamed that he would save her, but he understood that it was illogical to deal with the slime without weapons. They would quickly grab him. He told the stranger with elven ears that everything was okay because he was not empty-handed. Thanks to the contract, there is always a sword near him. It is always close, and the guy called the sword to himself. When he grabbed the sword in his hand, he immediately attacked the enemy and cut the tentacles of slime. The blonde stranger asked him in surprise, Is he really the one who signed the contract? Unlai felt like a hero at that moment. He told the girl to calm down, because he would now deal with these creatures. But suddenly a fairy appeared next to him who hit him in the face, and told him not to call her that anymore. Unlai said that she herself said that it would be difficult for her to come if she did not call the sword correctly. The fairy said that it was necessary to call her by calling her the Fairy of the Sword, and she hears everything normally. And what kind of urgent situation did he have? She asked where the enemy was. Unlai pointed his finger where there was a lot of slime, and when the fairy looked there, she saw that all the slime was burning. It was quite unexpected for them. Is this whole crowd really finished? The stranger with elven ears asked for forgiveness, and thanked the guy for stalling for time. She said that she was a little late with it, and that's why she got distracted and got caught. Then she introduced herself and said that her name was Minute, and she was a wandering mage. She said that magic is a flower of fantasy. It contains enormous power. The next events take place in a different place. Unlai and his new friend sat down at the table. The girl with elven ears said that she was surprised that in the starting city there was a weirdo who signed a contract. This is a very rare case among all ranks. Unlai asked if this was true. His interlocutor answered that it was indeed so. A contract is a weaving of souls. That is why most people refuse contracts with fairies. Besides, he will have to pay for it all his life. Give one eye, or they want to take your hand. They mostly demand something like that. So the contract is impossible unless you have a strong determination. The blonde girl said that she couldn't even imagine what kind of demand he could have received. Unlai did not want to say anything on this topic. The fairy also remained silent without saying anything. The blonde girl said that she wanted to thank the guy again. If he weren't there, she would have become food for those monsters. Unlai answered her that it was the other way around. It was thanks to her that he survived. The girl said that in any case, if he needs her help, he can contact her, and receive gratitude, or rather his. This is the teaching of her people. Unlai, looking at her pointed ears, asked if she was of the elven race. The blonde girl said that he was right, and the elves really respect discipline, even though everyone reproaches them for their conservatism. Unlai immediately remembered Vanilla and thought that perhaps she was different from the other elves. The elf looked him in the eye and asked our hero if he needed her help. Unlai thought about it, and had an idea of how she could help him. Unlai asked her if she could teach him magic. He would really like to learn. The girl didn't expect that he would ask her for exactly this. Unlai understood that he had made a contract with a fairy and that there was some secret of this world, so he needed to become stronger. No matter how many miracles he saw, he understood that this was a real world in which there was no such thing as levels. It turns out that his chances of becoming stronger were almost zero. Therefore, it is necessary to use absolutely all the options that appear before him, and he could not help but try things that he had not done before. The elf agreed to help him and said that first they would test his predisposition to magic. Unlai was serious, and he said he was ready for it. They could get started. In his head there were thoughts about whether he had any potential that could develop magical powers in him. This was a completely unfamiliar field of activity for him. He really hoped that perhaps he would turn out to be a genius, and in general it would be good if some opportunities arose to test his strength. And it came as a surprise to him when the elf said that we could take off our clothes first. Unlai thought that they wanted some obscenities from him again. She told him to undress. Unlai didn't know how to understand this. It was difficult for him. She turned to him again and said that in order to use magic, she needed to take off her clothes. Unlai asked if there was really no other way, but his interlocutor replied that in order to use magic he had to do it. There was an awkward pause between them. Unlai stood in surprise. It seemed to him that she wanted to deceive her. The elf asked him if he really didn't know about this. Now she was going to explain some of the nuances to him. She stretched out her hand and said that magic is absorbed by the body, and her mystery is that the body absorbs mana that is in the air, and then this magic passes through the skin, which is why magicians wear clothes that reveal part of the body in order to maximize the effectiveness. Only now did Unlai understand why they dressed like that. It seemed to him that there was something wrong with their heads. The blonde lady said that even if it causes some inconvenience, it is usually covered with robes. Unlai thought again. He looked at the elf and thought about whether all the wizards in this world really wear clothes like that. The girl felt a little uneasy because the guy was looking at her like that, but after some time our hero decided to take this step. He took off his outerwear and began to do what the girl told him. She told him to close his eyes and then he should feel mana with his body. Unlai had absolutely no idea how to do this. The elf said that he first needed to realize the presence of mana. She walked up to him and touched him, then said that it would be difficult for him to stop feeling natural mana. Touching him, she said that she was pouring dense mana energy into his body. If she could feel a large flow, then it would be easier to work with a small one. Unlai tried to concentrate, but the girl said that his body was different from hers, and besides, she felt some kind of sweet smell that made her head spin. Unlai opened one eye to look at the elf. He wanted to understand what she was doing. At that moment she touched his chest in the area of his heart. It was as if she was looking for something, and finally she found something. After that Unlai felt like he was transported to a completely different place. He saw a lot of blood. Someone said that there is a heart, and blood flows. There were many phenomena that were incomprehensible to him. Someone very bloody was in front of his eyes. Then he saw evil people. Some woman with very long hair was standing over a bloody warrior. She asked the warrior not to leave her and to remain in this world. At that moment someone else approached them. It was the Demon King. He had big wide horns on his head. Someone called the Demon King and bowed before him, reporting the victory, and so the castle was successful. The one who told him about this said that now people are occupied by them. Suddenly, the demon's subordinate saw in front of him the same woman with white hair who stood over the warrior who was dying. He pointed out to the Demon King what he saw, and the Demon King said it meant nothing. Unlai suddenly came to his senses and quickly rose from the floor. It turned out that he had lost consciousness. The elf was frightened by how he suddenly screamed and screamed too. Unlai screamed even louder, frightened by the way the elf screamed, and they screamed at the same time again. Unlai looked around and asked the girl what it was. Was it really a dream? He asked her what he had just seen. The elf said that she was very worried about him, and quickly hugged him. Unlai did not expect such a reaction from her and looked at the girl, asking her what was the matter. She began to explain to him that as soon as she began to hand over the papers, he fainted. She asked him for forgiveness and said that apparently she had miscalculated her strength. Unlai thought that he really was like some kind of helpless fish. The girl said that this time it was her fault, and she said that she was ready to be punished. Unlai understood that she was saying very strange things. It seemed that she, too, had succumbed to the influence of his scent. He asked his interlocutor in a trembling voice what they were talking about. The elf said that he was a very important person who saved her life, and she put him in danger without calculating her strength, and this is unforgivable. In the society of elves, an attempt to kill a benefactor is considered a criminal offense, so she must receive a fitting punishment. She said loudly that she was ready to accept the punishment. He should punish her. Unlai answered her that it was an accident, and now everything is fine. He tried to calm her down, and said that everything was fine and there were no problems. But then he couldn't stand it any longer, and told her to show him what was hidden under her clothes. And then he realized that he had just said his thought out loud, and he didn't mean to say it. The elf didn't think for long. She immediately did what he asked and asked if she was doing the right thing. Unlai felt that it was already very difficult for him to control himself around her. Then our hero could no longer control himself, and some interesting things happened. After all this, they just lay next to each other, the guy thinking about what he did. He lost his mind, but his memory remained fresh, and he punished her until the morning. He thought about how he would deal with the consequences. Now it was his responsibility. He lay there and thought that everything might not end very well. He had thoughts about running away, because you can't do such things like a beast. She turned to him and wanted to say something. The guy jumped up and asked her for forgiveness, and said that he was crazy, and he was ready to take responsibility. The girl replied that she just wanted to say that she was never able to teach him magic, so he can punish her again in the same way as he did before. This time Unlai was thinking clearly and thought that it seemed he had given another elf the wrong upbringing. The fairy watched all this. She just wanted to get the same thing. The following events take place in a different place. Our hero nevertheless acquired some magical skills and often successfully used magic for healing. Since he hunted slime, he often received various wounds and healed himself. He also decided to try his skills on animals, and he also managed to heal a rabbit. He also tried to use his magic on plants that were damaged, and he was able to heal them. Unlai was shocked that he could restore anything. This magic is such a cool thing. Then he decided to use his magic to heal Vanilla. He thought that at least this way she would become smarter. but the fairy hit him on the head and asked what is he doing. Vanilla asked the guy if he really learned magic. Unlai replied that everything was correct, and now he could even use it, although he had learned something similar to regeneration and strengthening the body. She replied that he was a great guy, but she had been studying magic for over 100 years and still couldn't understand how it worked. Unlai was surprised that she had been studying magic for 100 years and had not learned anything, then said that if she was injured, she could turn to him, and from that moment on he will improve and will be able to help her. The elf asked the guy if this was somehow connected with who he was looking for. Unlai told her a little about what happened and said that he simply asked Mint to help him learn magic. He told her how he practiced and began to get better and better each time. Unlai recalled the moment when he felt mana and saw it. These are particles that are constantly in the air. Now he understood what mana looked like. Mint was happy and said that finally he could see it. Unlai thanked his assistant for the fact that he can now become a full-fledged person. The girl said that there was no need to thank her for this. She taught him almost nothing, and besides, she almost killed him. Unlai said that this is really the other world. I didn't think that I would ever do magic. Now he will become even stronger using these skills. It really motivated him to become better. He thanked his mentor again and said that she would try not to cause her any inconvenience. Then he got ready, took his backpack and said that he would try to figure out the rest himself. And when he started walking, Mint stopped him and told him not to leave, and she hugged the guy. There was an awkward pause between them, rather than a few seconds of silence. The girl realized that she was doing something she shouldn't and moved a few meters back from him. Then she tried to somehow resolve this situation and said that she wanted to teach him a full-fledged magic skill. Unlai told her that he felt a bit uncomfortable asking her for more, but the elf replied that they were happy to help him. She wanted to say that he still had a lot to learn, she was just not yet satisfied with the result. Unlai understood that she just wanted to meet him more often, that's what she meant. Unlai asked her if he could help her in return, since she said that there was a rule in elven society. The guy already understood what she could ask him. He thought that she was very sweet and prepared to hear her answer. The elf said that I really need help. She wants the guy to help her find someone. Unlai asked in surprise, is this really what she needs help with? The girl replied that she was looking for her sister and wanted the guy to help her find her. This is how the story of how Unlai began to look for Mint's sister began. He began to imagine what her sister might look like, but Mint described to him what her sister looked like. The guy began to think that he seemed to know who they were talking about, and it was Vanilla. It seems that they are similar in some way. After all, they are both elves, especially those brooches on their clothes. Although their sizes are completely different, Unlai also asked his interlocutor about some things that I wanted to clarify. Mint replied that her sister is very caring and very smart, copes with difficulties that Mint cannot cope with, and she is very cool. The guy thought that this was not at all like the elf he knew, at least when it came to her being smart. So he dismissed the idea that it could be Vanilla and thought that he needed at least some kind of clue. And then suddenly Sia came up to him and asked the guy in a joyful voice who he was looking for. Unlai was deeply immersed in his thoughts, and he didn't expect her to approach him, so he was a little scared. Vanilla greeted the horned girl. Sia responded in kind and then said that she heard that they were currently actively working in the area. She also knows that Unlai made a contract with the fairy from the legend. Sia tried to stay as close to the guy as possible, and then said that she would like to meet this fairy. The elf replied that she rests after each mission because she loses a lot of strength. Sia started to pester our hero, and he was very uncomfortable. At that moment, it turned out that he was sitting on pins and needles. Unlai also said that he had to help the magician, and Sia said that she would be happy to help them. The guy asked her if she could handle it. The horned lady said that she would be very useful in this matter. After all, she knows all the news of the town, and she is also not the last person in the guild, and she can take a list of people. With her help it will be much easier for them to search. But she had one condition. She wanted Unlai to come visit her on the weekend alone, and then she kissed him on the cheek. Unlai understood that this was not an easy matter, and he knew what she wanted. After some time, he came to her house and stopped at the door before entering. He put on a white shirt and black pants as if he was going on a date. It seemed to him that this was some kind of adventurer's curse. Naturally, Vanilla asked him where he was going for the weekend and why. Unlai replied to her that he had plans, and it seemed he would not be able to be with her today. The elf answered him that she would go with him. The guy answered that I needed to go nowhere with him, and then they started arguing among themselves because she also wanted to go with him. But he tried to dissuade her and said that she couldn't. That's why he had to calm her down using some of his magical skills. After this, Vanilla calmed down and no longer had the strength to go anywhere, and the fairy asked where he was going to go, and she should know about it. Unlai answered her that it was nothing special and that he was just talking to Sia for a short time. She understood perfectly well where he was going and what he would do there. And then there was some argument between them. Unlai understood that she would follow him to hell. That's why he tied her up. It didn't cause him any problems, and in this way he was able to pacify her. The guy left the elf and the fairy alone and left, saying that he would return soon. When he was already standing on the threshold of Sia's house, he mentally asked Vanilla and the pink fairy for forgiveness. But this is one of the stages of his development. And he also needs to do some things with Sia that they didn't have time to finish. And then, looking around, he realized that this horned lady had quite a large property. He began to think that he was doing something wrong in life. If he wanted to live like her, then he needed to change his field of activity. While he was thinking about this, suddenly Sia opened the door in front of him and asked, "Has he really been waiting for her for a long time?" She was dressed in a very beautiful outfit that excited our hero. She was very glad that he came. The horned girl treated him to tea to start their conversation. Unlai looked at the cup and thought that this cup looked very expensive. But it was very difficult for him at that moment, because an incredibly attractive girl was sitting in front of him. I asked what kind of clothes she was wearing. Sia replied that it was a veil. She wears this clothes on weekends. She also goes to the temple where Unlai has already been. Such are the rules in the world of women. They are required to go there. Some visitors feel a bit awkward when they come there dressed like a priestess, so they wear a veil to make them feel more comfortable. Unlai looked at her with surprise and wondered why he froze like that. Sia asked what was possible if he took it off. Unlai told her that there was no need to take anything off, everything was fine, but Sia was not happy with his answer, and then she said that she was joking. After all, she also has insight, actually. Then the sweet lady asked our hero how he was doing in this world. Unlai started telling her that at first he was a little shocked, and quite a lot had happened here. And besides, he even almost died several times in various brutal fights. But he has friends with whom he feels better every day, and he thinks that he likes living this time this way. He lives with the help of these people. He also said that he wants to be needed by Sia someday. Then the horned lady smiled and said that she looked at him and remembered an adventuress she knew. The red-haired girl said that minotaurs with ears like cows and tails used to live here. One of these was just one of their descendants, and was very strong. So much so that at the age of 15 she became a silver-ranked adventurer. And she also quickly went to the mercy of fate, but she achieved very good success. And when she made a huge mistake, there were people who gave her a helping hand. And they say that now she lives with these emotions, helping people and supporting them. Unlai, you said that this story seemed to be about her, and then you thought that it seemed like she was talking about herself. Suddenly Sia kissed Unlai. He didn't expect such a turn of events. Sia said that it was the adventurer who was conveying that she was happy and happy that she was able to help Unlai. Our hero and the red-haired girl looked into each other's eyes. They were silent for a few seconds. Suddenly something happened. Milk spilled on the floor. Unlai asked her if everything was okay. Sia replied that this happens to her sometimes, and she feels awkward about it. And then some other interesting things happened that I would be happy to show you, but perhaps it's better not to do that here. After all, Sia is somehow connected with cows and she gives milk, about 4 buckets of milk per week. She said that it is quite a lot and sometimes it is difficult for her to cope with it. So she constantly delivers milk to neighbors. Sometimes she makes cheese or butter from the milk. In general, she uses milk in different recipes. Unlai realized that he had just drunk tea with milk. In general, after some events, Unlai found himself trapped and he tried to figure out how to escape. At that moment he decided that it was high time to use the magic that he already had a little command of. He remembered the lessons of his mentor. He remembered that it was necessary to accumulate mana and then purify it. And it seems that he succeeded, but with great difficulty he pulled himself out of this trap. The red-haired girl was scared and thought he was dying. She screamed for him to open his eyes. He had to lie down for a day after he tried to pull off these magic tricks. And so the weekend passed. Vanilla noticed that the guy became somehow strange after the weekend. I asked him what happened, because he had to tell them everything that happened there. Unlai didn't say a word. He was just very exhausted, the fairy screamed. What was that fool doing there anyway? Meanwhile, the elf was thinking about where she could relax with her boyfriend. She thought for a bit, and came up with an idea. And she said that they could relax in the bathhouse. I wanted to say that this was not a very good idea because there could be bad consequences. But the guy was happy. He thought that the bathhouse was a very cool idea. How good it is that in this world there are also baths. He loved this place very much, and considered it the best place to relax in the entire universe. He immediately said that they were heading to the bathhouse right now. He hoped that the fatigue would quickly pass. And finally, after some time, they arrived at the local bathhouse. But still, he is the only man in this world. It was quite difficult for him to be here. He turned to Vanilla and said that he had a very stupid question. But are there baths for men here? But the elf didn't even know what a man was until recently, and said that she didn't know anything like that. Unlai looked around and saw many beauties of different races. Some of them were fluffy with animal ears, and some had horns. It was quite a beautiful place, but there were only women around, and this did not give him peace. He did not understand how he could forget that this world is without men. Naturally, the baths here are not separated. This is all because he lived for more than 20 years in the ordinary world of people. He is not yet fully accustomed to the fact that there are only women here. He understood that he was too tired and wanted to have a good rest without thinking about anything. Now he understood that he needed to be on guard. There were a lot of girls here and he understood that they were not interested in him yet. But at any moment everything could change. He sometimes thought that this skill he possessed was quite useless and more like a curse. He thought that one day the day would come when women would catch him and he would be with them. He also imagined some things that were truly terrible for him. He thought that it would be the end for him. The fairy noticed that the guy was behaving very strangely. It seemed like he was frozen. While the guy was thinking about how to leave here as secretly as possible, the fairy had something in mind. She suddenly pushed the guy right onto the elf and said that she did it by accident. And then she asked him if he really wanted to do it right here. He could ask Vanilla about it. Unlai looked at the fairy in bewilderment. He did not understand why she was doing this. But it was too late. The elf had already decided to take matters into her own hands. The guy said that she should stop because there were a lot of girls looking at them. Some of them recognized the guy, and said that this was the same person. Unlai was in a panic. He didn't know what to do in this situation, and the fairy acted quite meanly. She was interested to see what would happen. Many girls approached Unlai and Vanilla looked at them in surprise. But suddenly for our hero they all asked, "Is it really Vanilla in front of them?" The elf was surprised that they all came up to her, and the girls said that she had fought that monster. Although it was not her task, thanks to her the village remained in order. They wanted to shake her hand. These girls started to praise the elf and said that she was one of those gold-ranked adventurers, and besides, she was very beautiful. Vanilla became embarrassed. Then she turned to Unlai and wanted to tell him that it seemed like she was well known here. But when she looked around, the guy next to her was no longer there. It was as if he had simply disappeared. Unlai actually took advantage of the situation, and ran away so that no one would see him. Luckily, they all didn't care about him. Thanks to Vanilla he was able to escape. But he didn't understand why this elf had become popular so quickly. And even the fairy began to treat her with respect. What happened while he was away on the weekend? But at the same time, the guy thought it was good that he didn't attract any attention. But suddenly his magic mentor appeared. He was very tense at that moment, and in surprise he screamed out loud. She greeted him and said that she didn't expect to see Unlai here. The guy thought that nothing good could be expected from this meeting, so he asked her where she was from. The girl replied that because of her clothes she always gets dirty on missions, so she comes to bathe every day. She wanted to say something else, but suddenly the guy covered her mouth with his hand because Vanilla and other girls were walking nearby, looking for the guy. Then when they moved a little to the side, Unlai choked on the address. But then he realized that he had made a very big mistake when he touched the girl. The hero even told her to breathe deeper, and the elf began to use this breathing practice. Then, having caught her breath a little, she said that she wanted the guy to punish her. She said that she needed it right now. Our hero realized that she had already gone completely crazy. But he decided that he knew how to take advantage of this, and said that he wanted spa treatments. It seemed to him that Vanilla would smell someone's scent, or even taste, and understand that he was lying to her. But fortunately, in his relationship with Mint, he is the boss, and besides, they put up a do not disturb sign. He thought that he shouldn't leave the bathhouse without washing himself. Besides, Mint gave an excellent massage. Suddenly the girl decided to tell him some important news. She said that the manager of the Sia Guild contacted her, and for her it was a real salvation. She helped her conscientiously with all her things, and at the next meeting she needs to be thanked. And then suddenly interesting events happened. Our hero found himself trapped again, and he couldn't move. Elphaba took advantage of this. But after some time, Sia came and asked Mint to leave this room, but she refused. They started arguing among themselves. Mint said that she was the first to start talking to him, while Sia said that she could clearly see what they were doing there. The guy heard unpleasant words about himself. They spoke about him as if he were some kind of product or thing. Suddenly he stopped them and shouted loudly for them to calm down, because they were adults. Why were they arguing among themselves? Our hero said that if they can't choose who will leave here, then he will do it. All they need to do now is arrange a competition, rivalry with each other for some purpose. And also sometimes the opponents put something on the line depending on the goal. Their pride was supposed to be at stake, but suddenly, while he was speaking, something happened that he did not expect. The guy thought that he would only win if he held out, and deprived them of the opportunity to think that he was their thing. He held out for quite a long time but understood that he might not succeed. He decided to close his eyes and mentally prepare himself for victory. The whole point was that he had to hold out for a certain amount of time, and then he would win. Well, as it turned out, the girl joined forces to force him to surrender. And they succeeded. The guy couldn't resist and the girls won. They were happy with this turn of events. Friends, if you want me to quickly make the second part of the manhwa you like, or you just want to support me, then you can use the super thank you function. I will be glad for any amount, since I spend several weeks creating one manhwa recap, and sometimes even that doesn't pay off. And thank you to those who watched my videos to the end. You are invaluable. After this incident, our hero quickly ran out of that room and hid again. He thought that he had already survived twice. The guy thought that if everything had continued further, he definitely would not have survived in such a situation. He understood that he needed to quickly hide as far away from all these women as possible. Suddenly he slipped on the wet floor and began to fall rapidly. He realized that he had already passed the point of no return. When he fell, he felt that it was quite soft and pleasant there. Having risen, he tried to come to his senses. His head was spinning from all the thoughts and situations he found himself in. Unlai knew that the floors here were wet, and it was very stupid of him to just run around here. He was pleased that Paul was quite gentle here, and there seemed to be much fewer people here. But when he looked around, he saw in front of him something he definitely didn't expect to see, and he was immediately overcome with horror. It was the same huge woman that he had once met on the streets of this city. As it turned out, he fell right on her. The situation seemed absolutely critical. A huge woman with a horn on her forehead turned to our hero and said that she had already seen him. Could he really be that same man? Unlai panicked and didn't know what to tell her. It seemed to him that she would tear him to pieces. He looked at this lesson on her forehead and broad shoulders. He felt this dark oppressive aura. The guy quickly remembered the situation that happened not so long ago. He encountered it, and barely managed to escape unharmed. It was that same ogre. Unlai froze in fear in front of her, and tried to understand what to do now. It seemed to him that this was already the end. But suddenly he remembered that he was no longer the same as he was before. Fortunately his opponent was without armor. If something happens, he can call the fairy and fight back. He mentally thought about the sword fairy coming to him. The huge woman turned to our hero, lifting him up and asking if he was okay. Unlai did not expect such a turn of events. She addressed him quite calmly. Her voice was pleasant. When he looked into her eyes, he did not see any desire to kill there. It seemed that she herself was perplexed by this situation. The ogre began to examine him and asked if he was hurt, because it was very slippery there. But Unlai told her he landed softly. She examined his body and said that it seemed like he did have a bruise, because something on him was very swollen. Unlai shouted that he had it since birth, and his interlocutor asked, "Is this really something like the characteristics of his race?" She felt guilty and thought that she seemed to have touched something important. The blonde woman asked him for forgiveness. She said that it was because she was too big. Unlai moved away from her to a safe distance, and she said that she didn't think that even in the bathhouse something could happen. The guy replied that he simply fell due to his own carelessness. The ogre answered him that it had happened before. He had fallen before because of her, and then she had not asked for forgiveness. Unlai certainly did not expect such a turn of events. It seemed to him that he had some kind of memory lapses, and his interlocutor answered that it was always like this, in the store, in the dungeon, wherever she went, she always caused inconvenience. It often happens that she blocks the passage with her huge body and others cannot pass. And she constantly runs into other people on the street, and she has to constantly ask for forgiveness. Because of bad rumors, she was not invited to parties, she always felt very lonely. And besides, there are no suitable clothes for her, which is why she has to wear her armor, and she really wanted to wear a dress. And even in bed she has to sleep with her knees tucked in. She feels like the whole world is too small for her. It's all because of her size, and this bathhouse has become the only place to relax in this town. Even here this happens. She said that she is a sloppy Finn. Then she clarified that her name was Finn. Did she talk about this? Unlike her name. She has such a deep history. He couldn't even imagine that she had it so hard. At first he was just scared, but after getting to know her a little better, she turned out to be a kind and bright person. Suddenly Finn shuddered and asked our hero for forgiveness, saying that she had said too much. She explained that she had not communicated with anyone for a very long time. Unlai replied that everything was fine and he was very interested. He also said that he was also different from everyone else, so he understood a little how she felt. The blonde lady said that it was probably because of that strange thing between his legs. Unlai said that in fact she was right, and people like him were called men, but she had never heard of anything like that. Unlai said that a man is not a race, he is a human being, and the huge lady asked in surprise what kind of a man is this, how confusing everything is. Unlai said that he feels very uncomfortable because his body is a little different, especially when he goes to the toilet, or even when he hunts monsters. It's because of the special skill, he needs to be careful, and it's very difficult. He looked at his interlocutor and said that perhaps he was no different from her. When he looked at her he realized that she was crying. Unlai asked Finn what happened, and she answered him that she simply understood how difficult it was for him. She cried and said that it was also very easy for him, and she cried because she imagined all the pain that he experienced. Unlai smiled and then laughed, and his interlocutor asked why he was laughing. The guy said that she just had a bubble coming out of her nose. She wiped it and laughed too. Unlai thought that he was the only man in this world and she was a lonely ogre. Their views on the world are not very different. She thanked him for making her laugh and then Unlai told her that he wanted her to be his friend. He decided to pluck up the courage and help her. He told her to tell him at any time when there will be a party, for example, or when she will eat. He is always ready to keep her company. Tears appeared in her eyes again. She asked if he would really help such a strange creature like her. Unlai replied that there was no problem with that, they deserved each other. Unlai wanted to seal their friendship with Pinkies, but she said she wanted to seal it not with Pinkies but with something else. She quickly hugged him and pressed him to herself. She was very pleased that she finally had a friend. And everything was fine until one moment. Finn turned to the guy and said that something was happening with her body. Something was wrong. Unlai tried to explain to her what was going on and told her to calm down. He tried to push her away from him so that what he didn't want wouldn't happen. The following events take place some time later. Unlai and his team were getting better at hunting monsters. Vanilla was pleasantly surprised that they were doing so well. She said that at this rate they would be able to earn quite a lot of money. She turned to Finn, who was with them at that moment, and said that she would finally be able to move out of her small room. Finn joined our hero's team, a good deed, and the fairy was not delighted with such a company. She thought that now there were even more strange things. Finn is a silver-ranked hunter. It is said that she has completed serious missions alone using only her strength. It is amazing that she can handle a whole bunch of monsters alone. But still, it's better in a team, because there are those who will cover your back if needed. Besides, she was very lonely. Unlai reasoned that for them her appearance was a success. Thanks to Finn there was at least some balance. She was a tank. Unlai was a mid-range weakling. Vanilla was strong enough but was used to working alone, at medium range, and Fairy was a support. She was a defense in extreme situations. This way they will be able to take on a higher level task. Finn approached our hero and shyly wanted to say something. The huge woman said that she succeeded this time too. Unlai smiled but was a little tense. He asked her if she would do it. Finn knelt down and bowed her head, and the guy stroked her head and said that she was a clever girl. Unlai thought that perhaps the reason lay in the incident when she had hugged him tightly in the bathhouse and then jumped to the side and said that she was thinking about something. Unlai told her that everything was fine and he was also inattentive. Unlai asked if this could really be called a special skill. It was impressive. She felt that very smell of our hero, and at that moment she was able to cope with the difficulties. Well, back then everything was somehow unclear. But the problem was that they became a team. Initially, some friendly boundaries were observed. Unlai taught Finn not to change clothes in front of him. But over time, these boundaries began to blur. Finn sometimes brought him flowers. She showed how beautiful they were and asked if he would accept them. Unlai thanked her for these gifts. But it seemed to him that everything was going somehow not as it should have been. They were still friends. And even during the hunt, she behaved strangely. She looked into his eyes. Right during the fight with the monsters, Unlai tried to explain to her that she needed to look at the enemy and not at him. And even when they ate, Finn gave the most delicious part of the food that she herself had prepared to our hero. She took great care of him and showed him every sign of attention. But Unlai was not thrilled about it. He no longer understood whether this was a friendly display of attention, or whether there were some other meanings here. He decided to talk about it with the fairy, and she said that there was no need to think for long. He needed to quickly drag her into bed. He had to do it as soon as possible. Unlai answered her that Finn was not like that. The fairy thought that he was very stupid. She told him to listen to her carefully. This was the first time in her life. When she smelled his scent, she fell in love with the guy without even noticing it. Unlai recalled the moment when Sia first approached him and started doing strange things. This happened because she met the opposite sex for the first time in her life. Unlai understood that Finn was constantly pursuing him because she also met a man for the first time, and she needed something from him. The fairy said that it would not be possible to ignore this. It would be difficult to maintain team spirit if it did not satisfy her. The only and correct way to calm Finn down is with her in the same room. Unlai thought that it would be somehow wrong on his part. The fairy asked him what was wrong. Unlai replied that Finn is of course very beautiful. She is slim and has incredible muscles. What bothered him was the difference in height. She even had broader shoulders than Unlai. He understood that anything could happen during their solitude, because she was very heavy and would simply crush him. The fairy replied that this could indeed be the case, but if he didn't do it, he would have to exclude her from the team, right? Unlai remembered what Finn told him and thought that he couldn't do that to her. The fairy, who was about to go to bed, said that she had only one piece of advice. Unlai would practice with her. He will train until he becomes stronger, until he can handle Finn's muscular body. Everything depends only on him. All that remains is to grow if he wants to stay with her until the end. Unlai thought that she was saying the right things. The guy said that first there was slime, then goblins, a cow, and now a giantess. He has a feeling that everything is only getting more complicated. The fairy replied that such is life. Unlai said that it seems to him that he would have died long ago without outside help. The fairy realized that he was talking about her, and then smiled and said that she was only doing this because she wouldn't be able to finish what she wanted to do if something happened to him. But since he is so grateful to her, he should give himself to her completely. She asked why he was still so constrained in front of her. Because they had already signed a contract a long time ago. She said this somehow aggressively, and then even began to beat him. Vanilla asked why they were still not sleeping. Some time passed. Finn was thinking about what was happening to her. She has been feeling very strange lately. When she met Unlai, her body started to react in an unusual way. Could it be because of that skill he was talking about? She felt like the more she thought about him, the more something was squeezing in his chest. Suddenly, her thoughts were interrupted by our hero. He came out from behind the tree, and this was unexpected for Finn. Our hero had some very strange hairstyle, and a strong aura emanated from him. Unlai, it seems it's time for a change. Finn didn't understand what was happening. She asked if there was a mission for today. Unlai knew this was a step he should have taken a long time ago. He approached her and asked if Finn wanted to go on a date with him. Well, let's go back a little. I trained him hard. The guy did push-ups from the floor. Unlai turned to her and said that he could no longer do this. But the fairy was merciless. She said that you can't get tired so quickly. She sat on his back and controlled the whole process. She said that he still had 10 approaches. Then he started his hellish training. He squatted with a barbell and did pull-ups on the horizontal bar while the fairy struck his abdominal muscles. He even used mana, In general, the guy trained very hard and tried to become better. Thus, thanks to the mentors who helped him in various directions, he became stronger. Now he came to a powerful woman to invite her on a date. They approached this moment very seriously. Finn couldn't believe what she heard from Unlay. Was he really asking her out on a date? The guy thought about how he had a feeling that Finn was confused by this turn of events. But he didn't understand the reason why she doubted. Did she really not want to? Was he really that wrong, and did he really not like it at all? Then the guy fell head down, and Finn asked him what happened. Well, now our hero looked completely ordinary, the same as before. The strange hairstyle on his head disappeared somewhere, and at the same moment all his masculinity and confidence disappeared somewhere. He even felt some relief. But still they went on a date. Finn didn't seem to understand the essence of a date. She said that it was when two people spend time together. But they already eat together often. Unlay answered her that this is different. It is a little different. Then Vanilla and the fairy were with them, especially since it was for work, and the difference is that the guy suggests spending this weekend just the two of us, alone. That's why he put all his business aside for her. Finn was pleasantly surprised. She said that she would be happy to have fun with him. Unlay asked his interlocutor what she would like to do. Finn asked with a smile, can she really choose what they will do? But she already knew what she wanted to do. First they went to have a little snack in a quiet place. After that, they went on a joint monster hunt where there were only them. Unlay, after some time, gave her a beautiful wreath of red roses, which he placed on her head. Finn really liked it, and she dressed the guy in a real suit of white flowers. Then they went for a walk to a place where a lot of people had gathered. As it turned out, there was an orc woman who sang very beautifully, and next to her was another beauty of an unknown race. Unlay and his companion clapped their hands, enjoying the beautiful singing. Our hero looked at Finn. He saw that she looked happy and was barely holding back her tears. After this eventful day they walked through the streets of the city, and Finn said that today was a lot of fun. She said that she had never walked like that before, and it seemed that people were so carefree. She even cried. Unlay complimented her, and said that she looked great. Finn thanked him for such nice words. The guy said that he also liked everything very much. It even seemed that he would not have to do anything with her, and he would just have a pleasant time with her to lift her spirits. He wanted to say something, but suddenly he felt her take his hand. The ogre said in an uncertain voice that today was not over yet, and she wanted to stay with him a little longer. Unlay realized that it couldn't be done without this, and they went to her house. He decided that he would do it after all. He became stronger for her sake, and was ready to help her. Then what was supposed to happen at the end of this date happened. The fairy watched all this from afar. She must have used some magic to make Unlay bigger, but nothing seemed to happen. Unlay looked at Finn and thought she looked very angry. He tried to figure out how to solve this issue, but she hugged him and said that she was very grateful that he tried for her, and everything that happened today will be a very precious memory for her. She said that he is her best friend. The following events take place the next day. The fairy told our hero that he tried hard. Unlay said that in the end he was unable to satisfy Finn. The fairy replied that in fact this was the case. But still, there is one plus to this. Unlay asked her what she was talking about. The fairy asked what he thought had changed. The guy didn't understand what she was talking about, and the fairy said that he should look more closely. He should understand if he looks closely. Unlay tried in every way to understand what had changed, because the fairy spoke as if something grand had happened. And if he makes a mistake now, will she start hitting him again? Is this really one of the most difficult questions for guys? He imagined a situation where a girl asks a guy what has changed in her, and he doesn't know what to tell her. Then she leaves him and says that they are breaking up. The guy tells her that he didn't notice that she cut her bangs at the salon by 5 millimeters. That question that changed the fates of many men. It seems I asked him that very question. But suddenly she slapped him in the face and told him not to talk nonsense. Unlay grabbed his head and asked why she hit him. He didn't even say anything. The fairy answered that time was up, and now she herself would tell him the answer. After all, he needs to really turn on his head and think about how he has become stronger with the help of her recent training. And because of this, the fairy became as big as he became stronger. She proudly said that she felt it. Didn't he notice how much she had increased in size? Unlay didn't really notice any difference at all. The fairy remained just as small for him. He lay on the bed, turned his face to the wall, and almost burst into tears. She asked why he turned around. Was he really ignoring her? The guy thought that he was progressing too slowly. This world would become a battlefield. The fairy replied that she didn't think he would give up so easily, but at this rate it would still be realistic that his key would fit her lock after some time. Unlai decided to change the subject and said that now his key does not fit Finn's lock, it is too small. But still she looked very happy. Maybe it is more platonic love. The fairy replied that he was a fool. After all, he was not finished with her yet, and they needed to look for a better way. She explained to him that he was only delaying time by spending time with Finn, but there would come a day when he would have to satisfy Finn. Unlai said in a trembling voice that he understood what he should do now, since he couldn't do anything about his size. All answered that he needs to grow to the size of a giant. Last time her magic for some reason did not work, and she was unable to increase the guy in size. But after thinking a little, they decided that they had someone who could help with this issue. The following events take place in the house where Finn lived. Strange sounds were heard from her room. As it turned out, she decided to finish what she started and began to calm herself down with her own hands. Suddenly, from the next room, Finn heard her grandmother's voice asking what that noise was. Finn replied that everything was fine, and she had just spilled a glass of water. She would clean it up now. Grandma asked if she could help her with this, but Finn replied that she could figure it out very quickly. She understood that she couldn't make so much noise at night. She started to wipe the floor and didn't think that everything would turn out exactly like this. She even had to wipe it with a rag. After she calmed down, he began to stop, ashamed of the things they had done to him. She thought that she shouldn't have done this, and she felt very awkward. Then she wondered what had happened at the end of the evening when they had finished walking. It must have been because she was just very big. She thought that she could get closer to him if she shrank even a little. The following events take place the next day at the mint store. Unlai and Fairy came there and started looking at the store. They called her thinking about whether she had quit her job as a seeker, but in that case it would be easier to get information. When they went out there, they didn't notice that Finn was already there. They definitely didn't expect to meet her here. Unlai asked Finn why she was here, and the girl with the horn on her head didn't know what to answer him. She started to get worried and turned away and then said that they were wrong. When she turned to face our hero, they saw that she had tied her hair and pinned it to her face, pretending that she was a completely different person with a mustache. Unlai said that she is Finn. Why is she pretending that it is not her? But the ogre said that she does not know who they are talking about. Unlai wanted to say something else, but Finn was very worried and said that they were mistaken and then hit our hero in the face very hard. For her it was a simple slap in the face, but for our hero it was an incredibly powerful blow that could kill him. At that moment, the owner of this store entered the room and said that she was collecting magic ingredients, and suddenly our hero fell right next to her. He hit the wall hard enough to not break a few bones at home. The elf was frightened by what happened. Her store almost collapsed. Finn, when she realized what she had done, she screamed loudly and began to ask for forgiveness. She quickly fixed what was broken due to her fault using ordinary boards. When everyone calmed down and began to sort out this situation, Elf found out that Unlai and Finn knew each other, and besides, she became one team with him. The elf used her magic to heal our hero. Finn said that she would compensate for everything and asked for forgiveness for this. Elf asked our hero why he came to her, and he answered her that he came here to learn magic from Mint. She asked him what skills he wanted to learn, and he quietly whispered in her ear what he needed. Unlai asked Finn why she came here. She replied that she also wanted to learn magic. She explained that she had been interested in this topic for a long time. There were very few magicians in Novgorod. Then a capable sorceress appeared and she thought that it was high time to take a few lessons from her. Mint asked in a flash if they both came to her for the same reason. She was interested in practicing with someone, but time was limited, so she suggested that they get it together. It was an awkward situation for them, but they decided to do it anyway and train together. But at the same time they hid their goals. Mint began her training. She began to read some spells and then transformed mana into crystals. She told her students to repeat the same thing she did, and she explained to them how to do it. Unlai concentrated and created the same crystals. He already had experience in these matters. Finn also began to try to do the same, but it was very difficult. She couldn't do anything, and that's why she was very sad. She felt like a failure. Unlai used his power again and turned the crystals into fire. He had mastered some magic spells quite well. The following events take place some time later. Unlai, having trained hard, was able to use some new techniques. He had a goal, he had to reach the required level, but this goal failed. He shouted that it was very difficult. It was very difficult for him to practice magic. He complained about it to the fairy. It's a special kind of magic, as if two parts of the body are involved at the same time, as if you were eating with your left hand and swinging a ball with your right. He thought he would succeed. After all, the initial magic was so easy, but some difficulties arose. The fairy said that if he learns everything little by little, then everything should work out for him. But then, looking around, she said that perhaps the problem will not arise since Finn succeeded in everything. Unlay looked around and saw Finn approaching him. She was much shorter than before, and she was wearing a white dress. Finn greeted our hero. She felt very awkward. She turned to him and said that she decided to try some magic and was able to shrink in size, and if they were the same size, that would be nice. Now let's go back a little. To understand what happened, Finn cried and said that she couldn't do magic. The elf answered her that she was very large and collected more mana, but to use it, more concentration was needed. Therefore, among different species there were different inclinations towards magic. Unlay knew that Finn had trained hard to be with him, and then he took her hand. He understood that he needed to somehow respond to her efforts, and decided to offer her what she wanted. He told her with complete confidence that he wanted to do it, then asked her if she wanted it. Finn agreed with him, and they started practicing again to finish what they had started. But when it came to the practice itself, suddenly the magic that was cast on Finn disappeared and she almost crushed our hero when she returned to her previous size. The next event takes place much earlier. Even before Finn and Unlay first met, the ogre bought metal armor. She put the helmet on her head and thought that with the help of this helmet she would be able to completely hide her face. She does this to hide her unseemly appearance. When she walked around the city in this armor, she felt completely different sensations. The other residents of this city looked at her with surprise and fear, but the ogre girl thought that she was very comfortable here. This helmet covers her entire face. She feels like she is in a closed space, although in fact she is outside. I thought that she is very comfortable, but the view here is a little bad. Because of this it is even better. She was happy with this purchase. She wasn't going to talk to anyone anyway, even with the helmet on. And when she was returning home, that's when the first meeting with Unlay took place. He hit her and fell to the ground. She looked at him in bewilderment, and immediately felt guilty about this situation. Then she asked for forgiveness, and tried to take a closer look at the one who had just hit her, because she couldn't see well because of the helmet. Unlay was very scared at that moment. Finn noticed that some kind of foam started to flow from his mouth. She thought about what to do in this situation. She understood that she needed to call a doctor and wanted to help the guy. It was at that moment that Vanilla intervened and prevented Ogre from touching Unlay. It was quite a strong blow. Finn even felt pain in her hand. Looking closely she saw that it was an elf. Then she saw an elf for the first time. She had never seen one before and thought that she was very beautiful. This glowing silver hair with a purple tint and large pupils and emerald color. Then she turned to the elf and asked if they were partners. And then she said that suddenly her partner started foaming at the mouth. Vanilla understood that she was talking to an ogre. Finn replied that she came without malicious intent. The elf said that the helmet that her interlocutor wears on her head is not simple. Magic is cast on it. Finn didn't know this. She asked if this was true. Vanilla replied that she had an eye for such things. Judging by the shape, it was curse magic that discourages and intimidates the opponent. To be more precise, this helmet gives a more frightening image to those who see it, and even if you don't encounter them, the sight puts pressure on them. By this she wanted to say that the best in the city is not to walk in such a helmet. Because her partner was scared, Finn said that in this case she would be with them right now. So this is a helmet. But Elf said that you shouldn't do this. This curse can become even stronger. Vanilla said that the ogre looks normal. Why does she cover her face? Finn replied that it is not about that. Finn said that she wanted to know their names, because next time when they meet again she would like to apologize properly. All this time Unlay was behind Vanilla and was moving away from shock. Vanilla said her name and Unlay's name. Finn also introduced herself and said what her name was, and then she asked for forgiveness again, turned around and started running away, saying that they would talk again if they met next time. Vanilla thought that this ogre was very strange. Finn quickly went to the one from whom she bought this armor. It was a fox girl who asked if Finn really walked around the city in this armor. She had already told her that it was better not to wear this armor there, since it had magic cast on it that instilled a feeling of fear. Finn said that she had already been told everything. She even crashed into someone. She asked why Angie hadn't told her about it right away. The sweet fox girl asked her for forgiveness for this and said that Finn had recently had a birthday, and she always walks alone. So Angie thought that this could help her when she was hunting monsters. She thought that it would be a surprise for her, then the monsters would be afraid of her and run away. Finn replied that she shouldn't have been given such a surprise, and now she needs the helmet and wants her money back. Angie said that she put her soul into this helmet while she was making it. Finn left the helmet and started to run away, saying that she should just take this helmet and that's it. The fox girl said that Finn should at least take the money. Angie took the helmet and started to wipe it. She was worried about Finn, so she made such a helmet to protect her during her hunt. She's not bad. It would be better if she corrected this trait. Maybe she became like this because she was alone for so long? She wanted someone to take Finn into a team where she wouldn't be lonely, and she would make friends with someone. And after some time, she finally found someone who wanted to help her. Now we are shown someone taking someone by the bloody hand while saying some words. It was a girl who sat over the body of a man among the ruins. She said that even after thousands and tens of thousands of years she would wait for him. She called him her knight who saved this world. She will always love him. It was Unlai's dream. He opened his eyes and beads of sweat appeared on his face. Sitting up on the bed, he began to look around and realized that he was in some kind of luxurious room. He was also lying on a large luxurious bed and Vanilla was sleeping on the floor next to him. Suddenly he felt that someone was holding his hand, and when he picked up the case, he saw that Vanilla, even in her sleep, did not let go of his hand. Looking at her, he saw that a fairy was sleeping next to her. It was very early in the morning. Suddenly he heard some steps and saw Christina approaching him and asking if he was okay. Looking at him, she thought that he looked quite healthy. As it turned out, our hero was in that very women's temple, and it was not just an ordinary temple. Here, the sick or those who are injured are also treated. Absolutely everyone receives help and healing. They also take care of pregnant women. I personally don't understand yet where they come from, and they also look after children. Christina told him about what they were doing here, basically doing nothing. They don't sit here. Many adventurers still come to the city with injuries. Unlai didn't understand why he was here, and he asked Christina what happened and how he got here. She asked, doesn't he remember? She told him that he had been seriously injured. He had damaged everything below the waist and had almost fallen into a coma. Finn brought him here and begged him to help Unlai. She also said that it was her fault, and only now Unlai realized that Finn seemed to have simply crushed him that time when she suddenly grew bigger. Christina also said that Finn paid for everything and then immediately left. Unlai just wanted to leave her with something nice and memories. And now she's going to get hurt. Finn sat on the floor and thought that she was hopeless. The guy thought that it was all because he lacked training. He was already thinking about what to tell her upon his return. Unlai felt that something strange was happening under the blanket. He was cured, but it felt like something had grown a lot. Christina said that it's been about a week, so everything should be fine now. But back then it was a complicated operation. They had to sew on missing skin and fix things. At this moment, Unlai became very tense. He asked if they had sewn everything on him correctly. Christina said that everything should be fine. Unlai quickly threw off the blanket and saw that there had been a red-haired cow there all this time. All this time she had been carefully watching our hero to make sure he was okay, and now she greeted him. She said that she was very worried that something would happen to him. He can't even imagine how her soul ached after she heard that news. Unlai looked at her in bewilderment. She asked why he had such a cold-blooded expression on his face. While he was sleeping, she did not leave his side for a step. Christina clearly remembered how they had already taken her away from here. But as soon as she got distracted, she was already here again. Unlai looked at his legs a little higher and said that it looked like everything had grown together as it should. Unlai looked at the fairy and told Christina that he still silently took the precious relic of this temple. So it seems to him that he is not very loved here. Christina replied that even if it was an accident, he had a contract with a fairy named Anderka, Unlai the Chosen One. Fairies do not choose someone as their master. This miracle happens once in a millennium. It is embedded in the great meaning of the fairy, and he gave this meaning a price. They only quietly support the choice of the one who is the double of the goddess. Unlai turned to Christina, but she interrupted him and said that it happened because of her carelessness. After all, she understood what they went through when they encountered those goblins. Unlai thought that this is all strange, this town of Fronton. Isn't it closed by a barrier that serves as an obstacle for monsters? Could such a lowly race as goblins steal something right from the center of the barrier? He wanted to say something else, but Christina said that it should be a secret. She also grabbed him by the clothes and repeated it again. But the guy replied that he understood everything, and she also said that she was very busy but was sitting and chatting with him. Christina replied that she was busy with an important matter and was looking after the sick. Unlai asked that if this was so, then why did she allow herself to grab him by the clothes? Christina replied that it was because she did not hear sincerity in his words. Unlai replied that he would keep her secret and he promises. The guy tried to push the nun away from him, but suddenly she fell right at his feet. Something started to happen. A bright glow appeared and a pentagram formed from their heads. Vanilla and the fairy were still fast asleep, and suddenly Unlai and Christina disappeared somewhere right from the bed where they were. After such teleportation, the guy quickly opened his eyes to understand what had happened and realized that the situation had changed dramatically. Now he and Christina are in some room on a bed, completely alone. He asked her where they are. Vanilla heard some noise after this teleportation and began to wake up. She jumped up and turned to Unlai to stop making noise and let her sleep. When she looked around, she saw that there was no one nearby. But where did he disappear to? He was wounded. Meanwhile, Unlai and Christina were trying to figure out where they were. As it turned out, there were no doors. The guy said that he himself doesn't know where they ended up, and he also doesn't understand what's going on here. Maybe the magic was accidentally activated. Christina grabbed him by the clothes and shouted that he return them back to the temple. The guy started trying to figure out where they were, that it was a room locked on all sides, but there was no exit or entrance visible anywhere. He tried to call the fairy, but it seemed she couldn't hear him. There was only a bed in this room, and to his surprise, a man and a woman were locked inside. He tried to understand what this could mean. Perhaps there was some kind of mystery hidden in this. Suddenly Christina pointed her finger at the wall on which some inscription appeared. She passed this inscription and it was written there that the key to this room is love. Unlai immediately understood what was being discussed. He understood that this was the only chance to leave this room. He began to tell Christina about what they needed to do. Christina didn't understand what it all meant and what he was telling her. She asked him to explain it to her so that she would understand. Unlai thought about what he should do, and whether it was worth doing at all, because Christina seemed quite mean, and she could ask him for something as an apology. Besides, he had already almost died several times while doing this with other women. He didn't know what to expect from Christina. She said that it was very hot here, and she hoped that they would quickly end this. After all, she had a lot of things to do. Unlai tried to understand who locked them here and why. They didn't just end up here for no reason. And in general, in this world, no one knows what love is between a man and a woman, and there are no explanations about what it is, which means everything hints at the fact that in this world there is still someone who already knows about it. He had more and more questions in his head, but his thoughts told him that he needed to get out of here quickly. He tried to tell her that he was trying to think to figure out what was going on here. Christina didn't know what to expect and how it would all look now, but Unlai told her that he would show her everything now. And in general he was very ashamed, because she still seemed to be a nun, but suddenly she grabbed his hand and pressed it to herself. Unlai asked, "Is this even possible?" But Christina told him that this was absolutely normal for them, because the goddess told them that they needed to prepare their bodies to show care. Unlai thought that in this case there would be no refusals and pressed himself against her body. But she said that he was behaving very strangely. Unlai quickly jumped away from her because he thought that he was doing something very bad. But Christina said that looking at him it seemed to her that he missed his mother very much. Unlai noticed that it seemed that Christina did not react to his skill in any way. She behaved absolutely calmly, not like the other girls. She asked him what they needed to do next. Our hero had a very unusual feeling. In fact, she really scared him and made him think that he was doing something that shouldn't be done in this world. And she also told him about his mother. Now he feels very awkward. He got very stressed at that moment, and slapped himself in the face. Christina asked him if he was okay. He almost went crazy. It would have been better if he hadn't heard this. Christina said that they should continue. But Christina still continued to behave differently from other girls. Usually with the help of his skill all this happens by itself, but for some reason it doesn't work on her. The guy was very tense at that moment. He was trying to find the right approach to her. He didn't want to disturb this absolute frequency of Christina. He tried to give her a massage to help her relax, but he kept feeling like he was doing something wrong. Then after a few attempts he did what he had to do and suddenly felt like a lot of strength left him. He had never felt that before. Suddenly something happened that he definitely didn't expect, and as soon as he saw it, everything fell into place. Christina got wings and horns, as well as a demonic tail. Our hero immediately realized that he was dealing with a succubus. Perhaps that is why she can resist his power. Christina was surprised that this is exactly what happened. Apparently they were originally demons. At some point the goddess punished them for their evil and they weakened. She changed in an instant. As if her personality had changed, she began to behave completely differently, and before that she was in a bad mood. Unlai felt that his strength was leaving him more and more, as if someone was sucking all the energy out of him, and this time there was no help, Vanilla or the fairy. It was as if he was being sucked into a quagmire from which there was no escape. He didn't know what would happen to him after losing all his energy. Perhaps he would die. Perhaps these were his last minutes of life. But suddenly he remembered the words of the fairy who once trained him. She answered that he should not give up. The guy said that it was very difficult for him, but she said that he constantly repeated this. He is too weak, especially mentally. He can't give up so early. Does he really think that his enemies will let him go easily? He had somehow survived before. But that was just fate, and now his last chance has come. This is not the world where they will pity him. So he must stand up and not give up. He must stand until the last, thinking about the fact that he could die if he whispers, and he must also fulfill their agreement. Unlai, having gathered his strength, took matters into his own hands. He said that it was now his turn, and the succubus tensed up at that moment. Now let's move to a slightly different place. The fairy felt that power filled her. She thought that she had finally learned the magic of enlargement. She had been watching Unlai the whole time when he was learning this skill, and she had sent him there just for this reason. And she began to dream about what would happen when she grew in size. Unlai woke up from something pressing on him. He was surprised when he saw that a fairy was sitting on him. She asked him with a smile if he was ready to have some fun. She was going to squeeze all the juices out of him now. The guy screamed for her to stop. He wasn't ready yet and he needed to recover. But she didn't care anymore. And now, finally, she wanted to do it. She no longer had the strength to wait, and she wanted to do it right now. She gathered all her thoughts and tried to increase. But she didn't succeed. Only the sword that lay next to our hero grew. She didn't understand what was happening and why she felt a flow of magic, but nothing changed. She tried to increase again based on only the sword increased. She tried to do this several times, but it was all unsuccessful for her, and the sword was already larger than Unlai. He didn't understand why he felt so uncomfortable sleeping. Russia was very sad about it. She even cried. Now let's go back to our hero. He was just fighting with a succubus. He understood that although she was a demon, he had a privilege. He had a lot of experience. She had absolutely no experience. Christina was a newbie and therefore she still didn't know a lot of things. He knew how to eat yours so as to maintain his strength, but there was a special technique for recovery for this, so he could remain calm. Also, some very interesting events happened and our hero won this fight. After all this, the succubus gave in and asked for mercy. The guy thought that he got goosebumps because he thought that he would die today. And then he saw that some kind of portal had opened, and it would already be possible to leave here. But the cursed demon would not let him go. She grabbed him with her tail. And then she told him that they should continue their battle. The guy shouted that the portal was already open. They could leave here. And again he had a tough battle ahead of him. But Christina was not going to give up, and so he completely lost all his strength, and remained in the hospital for another 4 days. After some time, the elf who taught our hero magic and went to him in the hospital. I hope that he is already better. Then she found out about what happened from Sia. She was very scared, and decided that he needed to buy a mucus tincture for recovery. She hoped that he would like it. But it seems Sif was saying something else. Only she missed it because of the story about Unlai. As she approached the hospital, she saw something she didn't expect to see and the medicine fell from her hands to the ground and broke. She saw Vanilla. It was her sister. It seems Vanilla hadn't seen her yet. When she left the broken bottle and walked away from there, Why did it all happen like this? Finally, after some time, Finn met our hero again. She hugged him very tightly and said that she was very worried. The guy asked her to let him go because he couldn't breathe, but she said that she wouldn't let him go. Elf ran up to them and said that she also wanted to hug. The guy left the hospital safely after some time, but he had a lot of questions after that. Women in this world, once they reach a certain age, it is obvious, because this is the only way to maintain the population. It takes about 270 days for a child to be born. It works almost like in his world. But there are differences. It is very strange that all girls give birth differently. Some can bear many children, and there are those who do not give birth at all. Unlai absolutely did not understand how this happens for them, because in order to reproduce, men are needed. But Christina told him that this is a blessing from the goddess. The child is a gift, the most precious treasure from the goddess Andurka. And Christina also told him that what was between them had to remain a secret, because he had to understand what would happen if he told someone. He told all this to the fairy, and she thanked him for telling her this, and now she will never share secrets with him, because he does not know how to keep them. The guy answered her that he simply had no one else to tell about it except her. The fairy replied that what actually alarmed her was that the one who helped her was actually a succubus, and even a little creepy about it. Unlai asked her if she really didn't know about this. The fairy replied that she doesn't meddle in the affairs of deities, so she didn't really understand it. But still, the place where they were locked together, she couldn't get into. It was most likely succubus abduction magic, which is how they abduct men with the mark. Unlai wondered, what mark does she speak of, and how long have men disappeared from this world? The guy realized that thanks to that mark, that demon was sucking energy out of him. She also has a ritual tattoo on her stomach. Unlai also asked the fairy how children are born here. She answered him that she did not really delve into this issue, but it seems she heard something about it. This is because she hasn't gone out anywhere for a long time. A lot of time has passed since she heard rumors that all the men had disappeared and only women remained under her. There were those who sowed panic for this reason. At some point, the concept of this world was destroyed, and just like that, everyone stopped caring about it. Even those who communicated with her did not answer her either. Until Unlai appeared, she generally thought that men were a fiction. After the death of the warrior, everything changed. Our hero still had many questions about why she thought that all men were this way, and what kind of warrior's death was being talked about. He also told her that he had been having the same dream lately. The ruins of a burning castle in the city, the demon king and his henchmen, and also a woman sitting next to a warrior. Above her head was the same symbol as the fairy on her forehead. Perhaps it was somehow connected to her. The fairy replied that he was behaving like a child. What nonsense was he talking? He should come to his senses already. But the guy said that he wasn't lying. The fairy said that she understood why he was interested. Were we talking about the dead warrior's team? The most important thing is that his dream is not connected with reality in any way. The warrior was a loner. Our hero asked her how this was possible. Did that warrior really always walk alone? The fairy answered that unfortunately this was so. He was the best of the best. No one could defeat him either physically, or with magic, or even in swordsmanship. So there were many who gravitated towards him, but they realized that he was so strong that he didn't need anyone. However, in the end he died from the sword of the demon king. The fairy continued to speak and said that it was obvious. In a one-on-one fight he was the strongest, but his opponent was the demon army, and the knight who went there alone was defeated. She still wanted to say something, but suddenly fell silent. The guy asked her what she wanted to say, but she replied that she probably just imagined something. She wondered what kind of girl was next to that warrior without allies, with the same symbol as hers. Another killer of Andrika and another sister, White. The guy asked did the warrior here also make a contract like him. The fairy replied that it was possible, but she had not thought about it before meeting him. But it was difficult to say for sure, since all this information was taken from his dream. Unlai asked where the one she called White was now. The fairy replied that she did not know. More than 1,000 years had passed since their last meeting. Unlai understood that it would be very difficult to find her. He turned around and started to leave. The fairy asked where he was going. The guy answered that he wanted to go to the toilet. She followed him. He tried to dissuade her, and finally he hid behind a tree and thought that fairies were terribly annoying. She spends all her time with him, but they haven't trained for a long time. He thought that he himself needs to become stronger. Suddenly the guy stopped. I looked around to see if there was anyone nearby. He already had some bad memories from the last time he was like that. He secluded himself behind a tree. Looking around, he realized that there was no one, because that time when he met Mint she was quite unpleasant, so he needed to be on his guard. Well, suddenly, right in front of him, a girl with green hair and a flower on her head appeared. Unlai was scared. He didn't understand what it was. Could it really be some kind of new monster? Unlai asked her for forgiveness, and said that he didn't notice her. He should have been more attentive. This creature had some ability to control plants. She attacked our hero and tied him up. She was very angry with him and asked what he would do now. She asked if he liked her hair. She wrapped her hair around his face and he couldn't breathe. She said that she felt that her body was growing better than anywhere else, so she decided to rest here a little and he disturbed her sleep. Suddenly she felt some unusual smell that she had never felt before, and approached the guy to bite him. Naturally, she was going to bite him on the most painful place on his body. She didn't yet know what it was. Then some more events happened, but the guy gathered his strength and called upon the fairy and then cut her hair with his sword and freed himself. He quickly ran to the side and was finally able to breathe. A fairy appeared next to him and asked if he was okay. Root replied that he was fine, but was a little distracted and got into trouble. The fairy replied that she saw everything and it seems he even liked it. Isn't that so? And yet he needs to be careful, because she is very dangerous. The fairy explained that this plant is a monster. It is called a mandrake. It is a very cruel monster that lures people into the forest, and then kills them and uses them as fertilizer. Beginners definitely won't be able to defeat her, so it's better not to mess with her and get as far away as possible. But the mandrake was very angry because the guy cut off her hair. She was ready to tear him apart, and screamed that she would never forgive him. He understood that something irreparable was about to happen, and the fairy asked if Vanilla and Finn had left. Unlai replied that they had already left. Then they began to quickly run away. The mandrake was not going to let them go. The fairy said that he was a fool. After all, they were in the forest, and it was impossible to escape from her here. After all, the forest is her territory. Mandrakes can hear everything through the trees. This is one of their strengths, so she always knows where they are. She began to probe each tree with her special sense, and managed to find where our hero was, and then pierced him through. She was already happy that she received new fertilizer, but as it turned out, she pierced an ordinary tree. Mandrake didn't have time to react at that moment. She didn't understand how that guy managed to hide from her. Unlai quickly approached her to attack her with his sword, but she attacked him with her huge ones which he quickly slashed and approached her. When he was already close, he used His Majesty's fire magic and created a fireball in his hand. And finally he attacked her. This attack was strong enough. He released an incredibly powerful fire force. Mandrake screamed loudly because her whole body was on fire. She was burning alive. Unlai was even surprised by what he did. He thought that finally he could do it himself. The fairy quickly flew up to him and grabbed him by the ear, calling him an idiot. Did he really want to die? But the mandrake attacked again. As it turned out, the mandrake could withstand fire. The fairy used the shield and protected him from the blow. She told him that he had not trained in vain. It was time to practice his running skills and run away from here. At first she yelled at him for acting so thoughtlessly, but then she said that he was great, and that was even cool. Still, he needs to be more careful. Safety is his priority. While she was telling him this, slime began to appear near them. Here too they were hungry, and they felt that there was something edible here. The fairy screamed that they had to run again, but the boy said that he could barely stand on his feet. The situation was extremely dangerous. On the one hand there was a lot of slime, and on the other hand a mandrake was about to attack them. The slime was the first to attack. Unlai didn't know what to do. He and the fairy begged for someone to help, and luckily help came from where they didn't even expect it. A red-haired horned lady appeared next to them. She attacked the slime very quickly with sharp movements, and quickly destroyed a whole crowd of these creatures. Sia came here to help Unlai. She asked how they dared to attack him. So she quickly sorted everything out, and they were able to return back to the city. All this time Sia hugged our hero tightly and did not leave him. The guy asked her to let him go. She was not going to do this. Unlai told her that they were being looked at, but the cow replied that she didn't care. She said that she wasn't going to let him go. She hadn't smelled him for a long time, and it saddened her to think that if she had been a little late she would never have been able to smell him again. She just wanted to be close to him a little longer. A fairy came up to him and hit him in the face. She said that now was not the time to relax. First we need to find out why the mandrake was there. Usually they don't come that close to the city. Unlai asked her why she was beating him so hard. The fairy replied that he was simply annoying her. The guy told everything that happened to him before Sia appeared, and he also told her that there was a mandrake there. And after the slime appeared, the fairy said that this monster could not possibly be here. Sia replied that it was. It is a difficult environment for all monsters except slime. That is why beginners often train there. Sia explained that this is a typical slime habitat. The reason why weak slimes feel comfortable there is because there are giant monsters blocking the approach of other creatures. She is the queen of slime. All others obey her. They call her the Queen Mother Slime. And it was precisely this huge slime that asked its daughters about the person who smelled so delicious. Only now did Unlai learn that there was a mother of slimes. He had never met her before. Sia replied that everything was exactly like that. They had one power, one faction, one queen. The presence of this giant monster limited the access of other monsters. That is why their town is called Starting. Unlai understood that he had not yet met anyone except slimes and goblins. Now he understood why in this city they only give the task of destroying slimes. Sia said that, however, one day the queen disappeared. The fairy asked in surprise, "Is this really so? If she disappeared, then everything will change." Unlai and fairy went outside and went about their business. They discussed what they had just learned from Sia. The fairy said that the main boss has disappeared and other monsters have started to enter here. It makes sense. Unlai asked her who can defeat her. Could high-ranking adventurers deal with her? The fairy called him an idiot and said that the guild would have known. It would have been a record. But Sia said that the queen had disappeared, and besides, she was not so simple that adventurers could deal with her. A normal slime is a fairly easy monster. Even Unlai can handle it. But the queen is a different matter. Even after spending months training, you can still die in a fight with her. The queen is a high-level monster. Her strength is comparable to an A-rank polyp. Unlai was tense when he heard that there were such powerful monsters. Fairy said that even Vanilla could lose to her. Walking through the streets of the city, the guy saw that everyone here would be absolutely calm. But the fairy said that he needed to be careful. Unlai, what were you thinking about? And it seemed like you were trying to say something. Something was stopping him. The fairy asked what was the matter. The guy looked at her for a few seconds and said nothing. The fairy asked why he was looking at her like that. She was impatient and grabbed him by the hair, shouting at him to stop being silent and speak faster. The guy jumped back and said that it wasn't about that but about her. I asked him what he meant. Our hero said that the goblins had already stolen her once. The fairy replied that this was true. Then the fairy realized that they were able to do this because there was no queen. The guy said that the problem was different. The goblins were able to pass through the slime territory. But how did they pass through the city's barrier? After all, it is impossible for outsiders. Everyone answered that she had absolutely no idea how they did it. Unlai said that she was the guardian of the barrier. The fairy replied that it was not she who did this. At that moment she decided to take a nap, and found out about the robbery when she woke up. The more information Unlai learned about this, the more surprised he was by everything that was happening. The fairy said that he couldn't understand this. The boss's job was to create a system that would work without her. That's what she was doing. But there was someone else you could ask about this. They went to the temple to talk to Christina. She asked them what brought them here. The guy said that he had one question. Christina looked at him with apprehension and then quickly began to run away. The guy asked why she was running away. He just wanted to ask something. Christina told him not to shout. She decided that she would not get involved with him anymore. Unlai told her that she was acting like the girl he really liked and that she was making him think he was weird. Christina said that he was still a weirdo. Because of him she again remembered her tail and horns. Unlai caught up with her and grabbed her by the shoulder, and then said that if she continued to avoid him, then everyone might find out that she had another personality. Christina didn't want anyone to know about her second personality, and she agreed to talk to the guy. He asked her what happened when the goblins came. Christina said that it should be in the past. He even made a contract with a fairy. But the guy said that he remembers once. But it looks like something else is involved here. Christina began to think that there really was something there. Then there was a big split, as if someone decided to break the barrier, and she decided that it was just a natural disaster, and then she restored everything. But she did not expect that goblins would climb through this split. Unlai asked her why she thought it was a natural disaster. Christina replied that the barrier is literally a structure that cannot be penetrated. It is like breaking down a wall with bare hands. It is not something that can be easily dealt with. Only monsters like the giant golem or dragon can awaken it, the guy asked. What about the slime queen? Christina replied that it would still be difficult. For simple monsters the barrier is invisible, but those who have reached the highest rank can see it. After this conversation, our hero went back to his home. On the way he was still thinking about what he had learned. He asked a lot of questions. Was it really a natural disaster or did someone do it on purpose? The fairy asked if he was worrying too much about it. The guy replied that it was very suspicious. It seemed to him that it was not a coincidence. This barrier break was very strange. Then goblins got here, and the queen also disappeared. When he was about to enter his room, he said that he had a premonition that some kind of threat was approaching. When he finally entered the room, he was greeted by two girls, and the guy was shocked. Vanilla and Finn were dressed in bunny costumes. Unlay didn't understand what was going on here. The elf was in a playful mood, and Finn looked as if he was uncomfortable in these clothes. The pink-haired girl smiled and said that she thought something good would happen today. Unlay thought that it looked like the coming threat was coming from the rabbit girls. Unlay tried to understand what was going on here. He stood dumbfounded and looked at them for a few seconds. The guy asked them what I was doing here. Vanilla just wanted to surprise him. She said that she bought these costumes at a party store. Unlay still didn't understand what was going on. He knew Vanilla could act weird, but he asked why Finn was also in that costume. She replied that Vanilla asked her to join. Vanilla grabbed our hero's hand and said that he, too, should try on the suit she bought for him. He screamed that he was not ready for this, but he could not resist the elf, and after a few moments he was already dressed in such a suit. Vanilla decided to throw a small party so everyone could relax a little, bought a cake and drinks. She poured some wine into glasses for herself and Finn, and then poured half a bottle of wine straight into his mouth. Unlay shouted, "What is she doing?" Elf said that it was very tasty. While they were drinking wine and the fairy was eating a delicious cake, Unlay asked why all this. Vanilla said that last time Unlay was hospitalized, and she thought about how little they knew each other. So in this way she decided to get a little closer to everyone, and in the end they are all on the same team. And so their gatherings began. They were going to get to know each other better. The first question was about who is what race. Unlay said that he is a human. The fairy answered that she is a fairy. Feminine said that she is a giantess. Vanilla Ice said that she is an elf. Unlay said that they have known this information about each other for a long time. Vanilla said that it was a test. She smiled and was about to ask the next questions. Then she asked how old they were. Unlay said that when he came to this world he was 20 years old. Finn said that he was her age. She was also 20 years old. Vanilla said that she was 162 years old. The fairy understood that she was already more than 1,000 years old. She had already forgotten when she celebrated her 1,000th anniversary. It seemed like it was a long time ago. She grabbed the guy by the face and screamed how old she was and how old he was. Finn turned to Vanilla and said that she thinks that Unlay sometimes talks to himself. She just doesn't see it. Now the fairy showed herself to Finn. She said that Unlay has been talking to her all this time, and she is the fairy of the sword. Finn was very surprised when she saw the fairy. She had never seen fairies before. She didn't even know they existed. Finn hugged the fairy and said that it was great, because the fairy who made the contract appears once every 100 years. Unlay told Finn not to hug her so tightly. He thought that she was going to lose consciousness. The next question was about where everyone comes from. Elf said that she is from the Emerald Village of Elves. Their emeralds are famous for their beauty, and there are also many famous magicians there. Finn said that she is from the village of Giants Gigantoria. Their animals and forests are bigger than in other places, although they are still small before them. Unlay also told where he was from. As it turned out, he was from the Republic of Korea. Everyone looked at him in bewilderment. No one knew where this place was. The guy replied that this place was unfamiliar to them. They began to discuss among themselves that this must be some kind of province. Unlay remembered his former home. The people here have no idea about another world, and yet he would already be in his second year at his educational institution. He even got upset when he plunged into memories. Suddenly he felt the weight of being here alone from his world. The fairy said that she was born from the sword. Unlai thought about how after doing simple everyday things he became a target for monsters and other creatures. This is not the peaceful life he wanted. Vanilla said that no matter what, despite the fact that they are all from different places and different races, but they are still together. She raised her glass of wine and said that she wanted to drink to the new adventures that await them ahead. Unlai listened to her words and smiled. He thought that no matter what the difficulties were, now he had people who were dear to him. And they continued drinking wine and talking about different things. After a few drinks they started doing different things. Vanilla started doing it first, and said that there is something that brings them together best of all. And so, under the watchful eyes of Finn and the fairy, he had fun with Vanilla. When the morning came, they went about their business. Vanilla said that she slept like a child today. Maybe it was because of that wine. The guy was very tired and he said that maybe the reason was something else. He didn't get enough sleep at all and besides, he had a really bad headache. Unlai looked at the brooch that was on the elf's clothes. He asked if this brooch had any significance in her village. Vanilla replied that it was an emerald that symbolized her origin. This was necessary so that others could understand where she was from. She asked the guy why he was asking her about this. Unlai said that he had already told her about this before, about the elf who was looking for her sister. She also had the same brooch as Vanilla. The guy said that her name was Mint. Vanilla's face suddenly changed, as if she was stunned by hearing this name. She was silent for a few seconds and then said that this couldn't be, and then shouted that it was impossible. Or Unlai was simply mistaken. Maybe it's not her. It's not who he's thinking of now. But at that moment Mint approached them and said that Unlai was not mistaken. When Vanilla looked at her sister, she really realized that it was her, and next to her was Sia. The following events take place near the temple. The nuns were busy with their own affairs. Christina said that if anything ever happens, she will definitely use Saturday to rest. But lately everything has been very quiet. Other nuns said that it is not worth talking like that. Christina replied that if you think about it, she had already heard about the queen. And it seemed strange, someone had to happen, she meant that adventurer. Suddenly she heard some noise from the other side of the city and was very tense at that moment. The other nuns asked Christina what happened. She stood and looked into the distance, as if she had already noticed who was approaching. Looking closely, she saw that something that looked very much like slime appeared from behind the wall. Unlai tried to understand what was going on, and what was going on between the two sisters. Mint said that she went looking for Vanilla when she left home. Unlai thought about it for a bit, and after looking at them both, he realized that they didn't really look like sisters. Vanilla looked more petite and had smaller dimensions. Mint had larger dimensions. Sia said that everything is correct. These are two sisters of the Ice family, a legendary family, clans of the 4 great elves. Vanilla Ice and Mint Ice, they are part of this legendary family. Unlai did not understand why these elven names are similar to the name of the ice cream from his world. What the hell is going on with these elven names? Sia said that she didn't even think that a person from a noble family could appear in their town. It was hard for her to find her, but she thought that Vanilla's name was a pseudonym. Mint thanked Unlai. The guy did not understand why she was thanking him. Mint replied that perhaps he had already noticed, because he gave her time so that she could contact her sister. Unlai recalled how Mint talked about her sister, that she was very caring and smart, that she dealt with the difficulties that she couldn't cope with, that she was very cool. Unlai said that it was good that they met. Now everything will be fine with them. He also had a reunion with his brother in his past life. He said that they should celebrate it, and he would treat them. But the guy noticed that Vanilla for some reason was behaving very strangely. She was silent and didn't say anything. Mint said that in general she noticed her sister a little earlier, but at that moment she did not know what to say. She hesitated and therefore could not think of anything. She did not know how her sister would react when she saw her. She was very scared. Mint clutched her staff in her hand and said that she had to say it before it was too late. But before she could say anything, her sister interrupted her and told Ta not to come near her. She told her in a serious voice not to come closer to her. She had a sad voice at that moment. She had some horrible memories of Mint lying on the floor with her head covered in blood. Vanilla held her staff and seeing how her sister had injured her head stood in horror. She did not understand how this happened. How the hell could a girl who doesn't have magic do this? She hurt her sister. Vanilla told her sister that she knew what happened then, and if she had waited a little longer, she could have died. It was normal that everyone treated her like that, because she was dangerous, and she wanted to be a warrior, a hero, and prove it to everyone. And now when she met her sister, Vanilla cried for the first time and said that she was asking her sister for forgiveness. Unlai and Sia saw her in this state for the first time. They were very surprised by what just happened. Vanilla said that she didn't deserve to be her older sister and ran away from there. Unlai had absolutely no idea what to do in this situation. The atmosphere was too heavy. Mint fell to her knees and began to cry as well, and Sia immediately went to her to calm her down. Unlai tried to understand what to do. He wanted to go after Vanilla. He understood that he would not be able to keep up with her. What should he do in this situation? Finn approached the guy and asked what she was doing while resting nearby and heard a noise. Unlai saw her and said if she could bring Vanilla back, because only she can do it now. Unlai asked her for this favor and said that if she helps him, he will blame her. They are real friends, so naturally Finn couldn't refuse him in such a situation. She turned around and immediately ran to catch up with Vanilla, saying that she would return quickly. And now he approached Mint to calm her down. He extended his hand and said that there was no need to spoil such a sweet face with tears. He was unsure of how to properly support others in such situations, and said that there was no need to get depressed until Vanilla returned. Mint accepted his support, and wanted to take his hand so that he could help her stand up. But suddenly something happened that they did not expect. A loud noise began. Everything around began to shake like an earthquake. Nobody understood what happened, where this noise came from and why the earth was shaking under their feet. Sia immediately realized that this was an unusual earthquake. She quickly realized where the noise was coming from and drew the attention of everyone standing next to her towards the danger. Unlai was stunned by what he saw. It was an incredibly huge slime that was trying to break into the city. The following events take place in a slightly different place, outside the city limits. There were several cute beauties of different races who went out on a mission very early. They were all adventurers. Some did not like the fact that they woke up so early. The girl Uarmer said that you need to do it as quickly as possible to increase your rank. She wants to become strong and help Vanilla to finally finish off this man. They asked if she was talking about the one who was waving the sword with the fairy in front of Vanilla. She replied that it was true. She was talking about him. He was a real monster. To defeat him they needed to work together. But the other girls didn't really want to do this. They just followed the instructions of their commander. The horned lady said that she, of course, also admits that he is doing a pretty good job of pretending to be the boss. Suddenly she heard some strange sounds from the city, and when she looked towards the city she was shocked. She froze in place, and the other girls asked her, why did Sylvie go silent? She pointed her finger at the city and everyone saw that something terrible was happening there. The city's residents immediately understood what was happening. They simply watched with great surprise as the slime penetrated here. When these monsters entered the city, they immediately began to grab everyone they met on the way. Now everyone understood that there was a terrible danger, slime in the city, and they began to run away as quickly as possible. The slime was quite strong, and those who were completely unable to fight against monsters suffered especially. One of the women started to run away, but the monster grabbed her by the legs and was not going to let go. The cat-eared woman begged the slime not to come near her because she had just recently paid off her mortgage. But it seemed they weren't going to listen to her, and she begged for at least someone to help her. And fortunately, the hero who saved her appeared. He quickly dealt with several monsters and freed the woman. He asked her if she was wounded. She replied that she was fine, but they were attacking from behind again. To repel the attack of the monsters, Mint appeared nearby and used fire magic and repelled the attack of the monster. The woman with cat ears saw that the magician was helping her, and was happy about it. Unlai and the elf freed several women from these monsters and told them to run to the shelter. The women thanked them. Unlai thanked Mint for coming to her aid so timely. Although it seemed to him that she was having a hard time collecting her thoughts right now, Elf replied that everything was fine. Now was not the time to think about such things. She also gained the strength to tell her sister everything she wanted to tell, and she also noticed that Unlai really began to cope better with monsters. He was not like that before. Unlai said that this was indeed the case. He had already gained experience during all this time. He heard a familiar voice that seemed like help. It was Sia who was captured by monsters. She told him that she could not do this. But if he could not, then other slimes would attack them. She asked him to save her as quickly as possible, just like he did with that girl, and to take her in his arms. She dreamed of a guy saving her like a real hero and taking her in his arms, asking her if she was okay. Unlai understood perfectly well that Sia was strong enough to resist the monsters. He turned around and began to leave, saying that it seemed there were still many monsters there. The situation in the city was getting worse. Real chaos was happening there. Monsters were taking over the city. While they did not understand how all this happened, why monsters filled this city, the fairy answered that it was obvious. Because the city barrier. It feels like the barrier just couldn't hold up, and as soon as cracks appeared, swarms of monsters started coming in. As if it was all planned. They don't usually do that. Unlai asked if there was someone behind all this. The fairy answered that everything was correct. Someone was controlling them. She also said that she was sure that this was the same queen. When they raised their heads up they saw her. She said that she had been looking for a very long time for the one who smelled so delicious. She had a very large core, and she transformed into her normal form. And finally they saw her appearance. There was a crown on her head. It was incredibly large in size. Unlai realized that all this time she was looking for him. He is the main goal for her. He was shocked after he saw the slime queen. He was scared at that moment. Meanwhile, other slimes attacked the city. They climbed onto the roofs of houses, and because of them, real chaos occurred. They caught all the women they saw in front of them. They were going to eat them. But Vanilla did not try to save everyone who was in danger. She destroyed the monsters with her fighting skills. But their number did not decrease. She ran through the streets of the city and heard the screams of those who were attacked by monsters. They are everywhere. After some time, Finn ran up to her and called her by name. Vanilla asked Finn why she was following her. Finn replied that she was asked to bring an elf. The elf began to slow down her run and asked who asked to call her, and then said that if necessary, she was ready to go for Finn. But after thinking for a bit she said she couldn't. Finn asked her why she didn't want to go with her. Wouldn't she even go with her if she asked her? Vanilla said that she won't go because her sister is with Unlai now. Finn said that it doesn't matter, she is still her family. The elf said that this is different. For her sister she will be perceived only as this monster. A monster that can't be controlled and because of which something irreparable almost happened, and that's why she said that she doesn't deserve to see her. Suddenly Finn swung her hand and the elf quickly jumped to the side. She did not understand what Finn was doing. The giantess said that Vanilla was so stupid. What did she imagine? She really deep down wants to talk to her. Finn said she wasn't sure, but wasn't it Vanilla who turned her back on her sister? And yet she found her. And she just had to listen to everything. After all, they are first and foremost relatives, not sisters, so there should be no misunderstandings or unspoken words between them. While they were discussing this, many monsters appeared near them, who were already ready to pounce on them. The elf thought for a bit, and said that before that we need to deal with the slime. Finn suddenly used some of her power, and grew in size along with her huge hammer. She had her own tricks up her sleeve. She summoned a tectonic rift, and slammed a giant hammer into the ground. With one blow she destroyed an entire horde of these monsters, which scattered in different directions. Vanilla was shocked by this turn of events. She didn't even think that Finn was so strong. The elf said that this is not just the power of an ordinary giant hammer. Finn said that it is all thanks to Unlai. Once upon a time she hid in a dark corner and was afraid to show herself to people. There were moments when she thought that dying alone was not so bad. Well, one day Unlai extended a helping hand to her. He was kind to her, and she learned that the warmth of the person you are with can make you stronger, and she gained the courage to communicate with people. Finn told her interlocutor to run to her sister Unlai, and she would sort everything out here. The elf agreed and quickly ran back to her sister and Unlai. She quickly ran towards them and hoped that they were okay. She wanted to make sure that they were safe. But when she arrived at her destination, she saw a terrible picture. Sia was lying in a pool of blood, and her sister was swallowed by mucus. Unlai was also in great danger. The queen had captured him and was about to eat him. Unlai didn't know what to do. As it turned out, all these events happened quite instantly. The slime queen approached them very quickly. Sia was the first to react. She stood up for those who were next to her, and told them to quickly run away from here. This monster is comparable to the dragon itself. It is too dangerous for them now. They have a chance to escape, and she will try to buy time for them. While she was saying this, the queen hit her with a very powerful blow, and Sia broke through the wall with her body. Unlai too was shocked by this turn of events. He still didn't know what to do. He couldn't run away from here and leave Sia. And then the queen grabbed the elf. She said that she can't use her magic. It just doesn't work. She tried to tell Unlai to run away faster, But before she could finish speaking, the slime swallowed her up. The fairy screamed for Unlai to come to his senses. He had to run. Did he really want to measure? Unlai couldn't leave them. He screamed for Mint to hold on. He was going to save her now. He began to attack the queen with his weapon, and the slime immediately healed its wounds. He hit the enemy blow after blow to save Sia. He screamed for the queen to return her. The fairy tried to protect the guy with a barrier, but this barrier did not work against such an opponent. And then the queen finally grabbed our hero by the neck, and he dropped his weapon on the floor. The queen said that she was glad to meet him and that she missed him very much. She had been looking for him for a long time. The queen said it was strange. No matter how hard she tried, he was still cold towards her. Unlai looked into her eyes and asked why she needed all this. She asked what he meant. The queen asked if he meant why she came here. It was obvious, she came here for him. The following events take place several months ago in the slime nest. The queen was eating something and said that she liked it very much, as if it were some kind of cherry honey. Then she looked after the nest as usual. But one day one of her daughters who was wounded returned to her. The queen asked what had happened to her, and if she was okay. The daughter replied that she was okay, and she had brought something with her. There was some liquid on her tentacle. The queen said she didn't know what it was. It looked sticky, but it wasn't honey. The smell is very unusual. She has never seen anything like it before, and it tastes very strange, and the smell also makes her feel very strange. She started behaving in a very unusual way, and then asked her daughter what it was and where she got it. The daughter replied that she found it on one person. Then the queen said that this person must be found immediately. This was only the beginning, and she immediately sent a search party throughout the surrounding area, and she herself remained in the nest. She instructed them to bring her a person who secretes something sticky. But there was a problem. They were being destroyed by an elf, and it seemed that her daughters were not able to catch that man. And they tried in every way to catch him, but they always failed, they always died. The queen did not understand how they managed to constantly destroy her daughters. She sent an army that could stop dozens of people. But this elf is definitely a monster. She is a real disaster. The queen also said that this had its advantages. She sacrificed many daughters to get this information, which said that the right person disappears and appears in a certain place at a certain time. It didn't take her long to put this puzzle together. If you connect the places where it appeared, it turns out that there is a town there that is surrounded by a barrier. Then she sent the children to search. She found out that the inhabitants of this town had been killing her daughters for decades. What an irony, isn't it? After that things went better. One day the barrier weakened. She took advantage of the moment and broke out of the nest and then hid. And she wanted to do everything herself so that everything would work out for sure. So what started with a simple smell led to everything that is now happening in the city. Only now our hero realized that it turns out she was able to discover the city that was hidden because of its pheromones. Unlai now understood her main goal. The queen said that he was very clever and left him. So let's figure out the situation. Fairy is currently unconscious. Sia is completely unknown whether she is alive or dead. Mint is inside the slime and is running out of air. Sia and Mint are at a disadvantage. But what is happening to Finn and Vanilla now is unknown. The queen sensed those pheromones again and decided that she would use our hero as a toy. In other words, she had no reason to harm him. The guy thought that this was his chance. But the queen was merciless. She was too strong and the boy could not resist. There was a fierce struggle between them, or rather, our hero was simply her puppet. When the guy found himself inside the monster, he used magic to attack her. But she just felt that it became very hot inside her. As it turned out, his magic did not work on her. He realized that there was no point in attacking her. He just froze and did not move. The queen thought that he was already dead. There were some other events happening there. But in the end the fairy came to her senses and managed to free our hero. She said that she was not in the right state now and could not activate the barrier. Unlai thought that his magic was almost at zero. It was very hard for him now, and his only weapon was not able to use the barrier. It turned out that from all this there was only one chance to deal a crushing blow to this monster. He laughed and said that if he did not try, he would not know. The queen tried to grab him, but the guy dodged and did not let himself be caught. The fairy told him that he needed to run away from here faster, but the guy told her that he couldn't leave. He had no other choice. Besides, Mint didn't have time. She would soon suffocate. He told the fairy not to worry about him. The situation was not the same as before. he had a plan. While the queen was recovering from what had happened, the guy concentrated and was ready to attack. Our hero fought completely naked, so I can't show all those epic moments here. He used his fire magic to distract her. His target is the core inside her. He tried to speed up with fire to pierce her core. He was going to give a powerful attack that is impossible to avoid. And indeed, he actually succeeded in doing so, plunging his sword straight into the monster's core. The huge slime fell to the ground and crumbled into small pieces. The fairy was incredibly surprised. She did not believe that this happened. He dodged all of her and then hit her core. It is incredible. And it is amazing that such a weakling as he could do this. Mint finally broke free. It fell to the ground but was still unconscious. Sia was also alive. She cleared away the stones that fell on her and began to look where Anlai was. She ran up to him and saw that he was fine. But for some reason he was without clothes. The fairy asked, "Is this really the end of it? Did he really kill the queen? If that's the case, then they should have a party to celebrate it." The guy yelled at her to shut her mouth. Doesn't she know what flag she just touched? But suddenly something happened that the guy didn't expect. The slime for some reason didn't die. It tried to grab him again. The guy forbade it. That it was all because of this damned sign. Well, at the most crucial moment, Vanilla appeared, repelled the monster's attack and saved our hero again. The queen said it was a fascinating spectacle. It was the first time she had played something like this. This man broke her core, but she quickly recovered. The queen was surprised that the elf cut off her hand with one blow. She began to understand who she was. She said that she would not forgive her, but the girls said that she would definitely forgive them, and for some reason they licked their hands. They did this because they touched our hero. The queen said that it was the elf who constantly thwarts her plans, but Vanilla said that she doesn't remember it. The queen said that it doesn't matter whether she remembers it or not, but she's still going to die now. The guy said that she should be careful. Despite all her strength, Vanilla is not as strong as the queen. The elf interrupted him and said that she just had a few complaints about her. She grabbed her blades. Vanilla told the guy to look after her sister. She'll figure it out now. The queen began to attack the elf, but she quickly began to reflect her attacks with her blades. She repelled the bundle of tentacles with one swing. The guy tried to carry Mint away from here, but it was very hard for him because he had lost a lot of strength. The queen tried to grab the guy. At that moment, Sia intervened and hit the queen's hand and crushed it. She screamed. Does she really think that she would let anyone touch her precious person? Vanilla delivered an incredibly powerful blow and made a hole in the queen's body, rupturing her core. But the queen restored her core again. She said that because of them she had already lost 3 cores. Meanwhile, our hero tried to run away as quickly as possible. He wanted to hide Mint in a safe place. But suddenly he noticed that he was surrounded by monsters on all sides. What should he do now? He had little strength, but he could not give up. He called the fairy and grabbed the sword in his hand very tightly. But unexpectedly for him, Christina appeared next to him in the guise of a demon. She asked why this man was naked. She destroyed all the monsters that were nearby. It turned out that she was also quite powerful. Anlai could no longer stand on his feet. He simply fell to the ground due to the fact that he overexerted himself. Anlai told Christina to help Mint. But fortunately Mint came to her senses very quickly. After Christina healed her, our hero quickly hugged her and said that he was very glad that she woke up. The elf asked why he was without clothes. He told her that he fought with the demon queen. The elf understood everything. Christina assumed her normal form and greeted Mint. The elf thanked her for it. Anlai said that her sister was currently fighting the slime queen, and she was handling her. But Mint said that she had to take care of her. She had been looking for her sister for so long. The guy wanted to say something else, but she quickly used her magic and covered his mouth so that he wouldn't say anything, and she ran to help her sister. Sia was badly hurt in this fight. The queen said that the elf was strong enough, but now it was all over, because she had destroyed so many of her daughters. She was still saying something, but suddenly Mint dealt her a crushing blow with her magic. She screamed if her sister was okay. The situation was very tense. Mint said that she would save her sister. The queen's body began to recover quickly. She began to attack Mint, but the elf quickly dodged. She finally found her sister, and they didn't even talk to her normally. And suddenly, right before Vanilla's eyes, the slime queen hit her sister with a very powerful blow. She saw her sister fall. She understood that if she fell she would break and could die. She remembered the times when they were still little children. Then Vanilla and Mint talked about who had what abilities. Vanilla said that although her sister could not do magic, she was very good at sports. They would have made a great adventurer duo. Then she remembered how someone told her that she needed to have a magical battle with her sister, but she didn't know how to do magic. Vanilla remembered that on that day she seriously injured her sister. She looked at her bloody hands and did not understand, did she really do it? Mint was in a coma for a very long time. There is a possibility that she will not come out of there at all. She remembered how other elves laughed with her, and said that it was she who almost killed her sister. Does she really not remember anything? Seeing how Mana destroyed her sister is terrible. The prestige in the Ice family has fallen. This is the cursed child. Right at the moment of falling, she suddenly saw a symbol in the sky like the one on the fairy's forehead. And at that moment Vanilla seemed to explode. She shone with a very bright light. Mint was about to fall to the ground, but luckily Sia reacted quickly and saved her. Sia noticed that where the queen was there was a real whirlwind of magic. She understood that the density of this wind was like a stone. And the queen was shocked by what she saw in front of her. Vanilla awakened incredible power, and then she unleashed all this power on the queen, and the queen, like her whole body, began to melt. Her body couldn't withstand this wind of mana. She just started to disappear, evaporating like water. Christina arrived at the scene in the form of a demon, carrying Unlai in her arms. She asked why she was doing this at all. They were also joined by Finn, who came running here as soon as she saw the explosion. Unlai thanked God that everyone was alive and well, but Mint tried to get up to run to her sister. She said that this storm is her magic. She does not control this image of energy. She constantly restrained this power. Mint explained that Vanilla has a huge innate mana potential. It is an incredibly powerful force that cannot be curbed. As a result, in their settlement Emeraldos went into that incident. Their scientists did not leave her alone in order to reveal the secret of her sister's power. They continued their cruel research. In the end, the sister's mana exploded, and the settlement was destroyed. That's why she was driven away, because of fear of her abilities. Unlai now understood why she didn't want to do magic. She had her own reasons for it. Sia said that now it is not surprising. She took the class of a bandit that does not correspond to her status, and wore similar clothes. Finn asked how to save her in that case. Mint answered that they were able to stop her, but all the mages participated. The fairy said that they had a way to save her. Unlai asked her how to do this. The fairy answered that there was a chance, but it was unlikely. For salvation, the sacrifice of one person was needed. Unlai had to choose. She said that this city would soon be destroyed, and was he ready to risk his life for Vanilla? Someone was watching this powerful release of energy from afar. Someone who was outside the city. She said that finally the time had come. It was time to go there. She also explained that Vanilla's heart was currently locked. Its shock caused her to become very sensitive to the mana around her, which eventually led to a mana rupture. If left like this, the dead land would spread everywhere. Unlai wanted her to clarify what land she was talking about. The fairy said that it is the life energy that the earth gives off. In other words, if it is neglected and depleted, a zone unsuitable for life will form around the earth. This is literally dead land. A surge of this level could become a crisis for the entire country, which is why there is a need for someone who can calm Vanilla's heart, someone who is willing to go through a mana explosion, risk their life, and talk to her. Sia said that it was impossible. The storm destroyed absolutely everything, even the Slime Queen. How could an ordinary person get there? It was the same as suicide. Christina said that it is possible if you create a small hole in the storm. She can make this gap with other nuns for a while, and the guy will be able to pass. It will hurt, but he should succeed. She also said that with such a density of mana it will not last long, but they will do everything possible to help him. So he must save this city. Mint said that she can help too. She is the only one who can use large-scale magic, and she still wants to say something to her sister. If this wall is the wall of the heart, and her sister, then she will destroy it. Finn and Sia said they would do everything they could to help too. The fairy again asked our hero what they would do in this situation. The guy remembered their first meeting and how they spent time together. She was always kind to him. They woke up together and spent a lot of time together. Vanilla was always very kind to him. Unlai, remembering all this with a smile on her face, said that for her sake he was ready to do anything. Where did that weak man who was in the beginning go? Vanilla, meanwhile, seemed to be in another space. She was very upset that she did it again. She was wondering if her friends and sister were okay. She understood that the residents were in danger, and again she disappointed everyone. She wanted to die. Suddenly she heard a familiar voice. It was her sister's voice. Her sister screamed that they were starting. Mint used her magic and began to read the spell. She is a guide that leads the lost and gives peace on earth. She created an incredibly powerful pulse of heavenly light, and directed her power towards the barrier where her sister was located. She immediately felt a huge pressure of mana. She understood that her sister had experienced a lot of pain. At some point, it was as if she fell into another world. There was only her and her sister. Vanilla asked her for forgiveness for running away and said that she could not be near her, as if nothing had happened. She looked at her sister's bloody face, and said that this beautiful face became like this because of her. She had committed a truly unforgivable sin, and only she would pay for it. Mint screamed at her sister not to talk like that. She was not here to listen to it. She came here to be near her, because she did nothing wrong, and what happened then and what happened now is an accident. Even if everyone in the world blames her, then Mint will always remain on her side. Because they are a family, they should be together and support each other. And so the end she made a hole inside this force field. And so the succubi approached the barrier to begin what they had to do. They used their power and stopped time in one specific area to seal that moment as it was so that it could be passed through. Then Sia and Finn quickly threw our hero inside this barrier. He got there and immediately felt a strong pain. It turned out that she was much closer, and he felt that his body was starting to burn here. At this rate he would die without even reaching her, the fairy said. Was he really going to whine at such a crucial moment? She used her shield to make it easier for him to stay inside this energy cocoon. Unlai said that he was not going to die today. The fairy said that in that case he should hurry and convince Vanilla to calm down. He must save the world. Unlai came to his senses after her words. He needed to hurry up quickly because if he retreated even for a moment then everything would be in vain. He realized that now he was inside an uncontrollable storm of mana. This means that he can use it without limitation. The guy used the power of fire and accelerated like a rocket to get to the elf faster. The closer he got to her, the more painfully he was wounded by this deadly whirlwind, and finally he approached Vanilla and hugged her. He started calling her and asking if she could hear him, but she didn't answer. She heard his voice and said that she couldn't stop this storm. Unlai at some point teleported to a place where there was only him and her. He told her that she said that she wanted to become a hero, and she also wants to make peace with her sister, and they have to have adventures, and she can never spend time with Unlai again. Is she really okay with that? Unlai grabbed her hand and said that she needed to hurry. Everyone was already waiting. Vanilla asked why he was trying so hard for her. She's not as good as he thinks. She ran away not because she's tired of the city. And it's not that she didn't become a mage because of the difficult spells. She's afraid of this curse. She deceived everyone. It was all a lie. Why is he suffering? Unlai said that she extended her hand to him and said that she wanted to go through this journey with him. She also saved him from loneliness in this world. She supported him and helped him when he was so helpless and weak, and also saved him so many times. The guy said that he liked her exactly the way she was. These words touched Vanilla's very heart. And finally she calmed down. She managed to stop this release of powerful energy. Everyone is surprised. Could he really stop it? When the energy calmed down, the guy said that despite the curse, he would never turn away from her. So now everything would be fine. Vanilla said that she wanted to say something to Unlai. The guy asked what she wanted to say, but suddenly she just kissed him. And with a smile and also with tears in her eyes she said that she also really liked him. The fairy intervened in their conversation. She asked why the hell were they having their conversation without her. Unlai asked if she was okay. The fairy replied that she was okay. And why was the guy so surprised? Had he already managed to forget about her? Unlai said that he had not forgotten about her, but he was going to look at the sky with a sad face after everything was over. The fairy got angry because he already thought that she was going to die. And then she started yelling at him. She asked for whom in his opinion she risked her life protecting him. Thanks to her he is alive. Unlai said that he asks her for forgiveness, and she is the best. Vanilla asked what happened to them. The guy answered that the fairy put her life on the line. Mint quickly ran up to her sister and hugged her. Vanilla with tears in her eyes asked her sister for forgiveness. She said that she heard her voice and asked for forgiveness for avoiding her. Mint said that she was very sorry that they had not met earlier, she just did not have enough courage. Vanilla said why spoil such a beautiful face with tears. Now they were never going to part. Unlai looked at the reunion of the two sisters with a smile. He said that it seemed like everything was resolved. Suddenly, our hero was attacked by Finn and Sia, who hugged him tightly. They were glad that he was okay. Christina said that they should move away from him and let him heal, otherwise he might die. That's how this incident ended. This event, later called the Slime Queen invasion, caused great damage to the town. However, everything began to recover quite quickly. Fortunately, there were no casualties. The town quickly returned to its previous appearance. Let's call it luck. Unlai was thinking that Vanilla would be punished for Mana Storm, but everything went the other way around. Sia came up to her after some time and said that Vanilla Ice fought bravely against the Slime Queen and saved their town. So on behalf of this entire town she wants to thank her. All the other residents of this city joyfully exclaimed that she was great, and she was very cool, since her storm helped in the murder of the queen. Then instead of punishment it was taken for a favor. The guy was worried that she would be punished, but she received a medal and now he is calm. In fact, she received a rather strange prize made of gold, or rather she received a city symbol that resembled something. City life continued and everyone returned to their daily routines. Now Unlai could not sleep at night until he finished some important things. They still decided to celebrate the day they crushed the queen, and they all gathered together. Everyone in this room worked together to make it happen. Finn learned to cast a shrinking charm on herself. There were some interesting things happening there in which absolutely everyone participated. Christina also came there, but she came because someone told her that Unlai's wounds were open. But when she looked into the room, she realized that everyone there was very busy. But the guy invited her to everyone and said that she helped him a lot and deserved to relax with them. Everyone enjoyed the evening except the fairy, who just sat alone because she was too small. After some time it ended in the morning. Everyone had already gone to bed. Unlai and Vanilla woke up first and went outside. She asked if they needed to wake up the others, but the guy said that after everything that happened they needed to get a good rest. But still, their financial situation is quite bad. They need to not put it off and start earning now. Vanilla asked, is it really that bad? Unlai said that living expenses had to be cut, because after the incident with the Slime Queen, they couldn't complete tasks for a while, and although she had tried her best, due to the difficulties in the city, the reward couldn't be received yet. Unlai said that he even liked it. He felt as if he had returned to the beginning as soon as he got into this world. He asked his companion if she remembered how they arrived in this city, a completely unfamiliar place, and they had no money. Now, of course, everything has become much better thanks to new acquaintances, and now he has friends whom he loves and wants to protect. Sad and happy times, adventures and meetings. There is still a lot of unknown in this world. Unlai wants to know everything in this world. Besides, they have just started their journey. He wants to become rich and gain fame, train hard and become stronger so that he can eventually defeat the Demon King. Vanilla took the guy's hand. She smiled and said that they would do it together. They would definitely succeed. And holding hands they went to figure out how to earn more money. They set off to meet new adventures. Suddenly, while they were walking around the city, someone appeared on the roof. It was a woman with cat ears, looking at our hero and saying that this was the face she knew after 1,000 years. They looked up and saw her. It was the red-haired lady who said that they hadn't seen each other for a long time, and called our Unlai, and thus suddenly another surprise appeared on the horizon. Meanwhile, after some time, one of the ordinary slimes suddenly transformed. She realized that her body had somehow changed, and she realized that she was now the new queen. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked this manhwa and would like to see a continuation, then be sure to write about it in the comments. If I see good activity in the form of comments and likes, then I will definitely make the next part. Also, do not forget to subscribe to this channel and click on the bell so you don't miss new videos. Also watch other similar videos on this channel. See you later.